Chapter 1336. At this moment, Simo Domo's mind was in a mess. He wanted to find out why the great Tang had come to his side. He knew that helping the Arabs had angered the great Tang, and they had even stolen many of the things stored in his tribe. Fortunately, the current season was not bad. If they had stolen the things in the winter, many people on his side would have starved to death. A group of great Tang soldiers had just left, and now another group had arrived. There were even more people than before, and the ones leading them were the legendary Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. The Arabs had told him that these two were ruthless. Most importantly, in their first meeting today, the two of them did not seem to be very friendly. It seemed that he had used the wrong strategy and should have lowered his head. Now that the other side had brought up a competition, he did not know what the other side was planning. Could it be that they wanted to capture everyone on his side during the competition? With so many thoughts in his mind, the delicious taste of the hot pot gradually faded away. Simo Domo he slowly swallowed a piece of meat and looked at Zhang Xiaobao, who had suddenly become amiable, and asked, "What are we competing in?" "We can compete in anything. Hunting, fishing, chopping wood, fighting, whatever you say, we'll compete according to what you say. But the rules have to be the same, so that we can get to know each other better. Who knows? Maybe we'll become a family." Zhang Xiaobao put down his chopsticks and smiled at Simo Domo he. He took a small bowl in front of him and scooped out some soup from the hot pot. "Drink the soup. It's fresh." The taste of the hot pot soup depends on how it tastes when drunk directly. If it's not fresh, then it's not a good hot pot. "Good, good." Simo Domo also took a small bowl and imitated Zhang Xiaobao's actions. He scooped out a bowl of soup and blew on it. He raised his head and gulped down half a bowl of soup. He praised, "It's delicious." Zhang Xiaobao, Xiaobei, and the others were speechless. "Is this how you drink soup? That sour plum soup and mung bean soup, okay? To relieve the heat. Eat meat, eat meat. We found good meat today. Xiaobei, don't eat too much." Once again, Zhang Xiaobao invited Simo Domo to join his chopsticks. He didn't forget to shout at his younger brothers and sisters. Otherwise, if they ate too much, they wouldn't be able to sleep at night. They rubbed their stomachs and strolled around to digest the food. Xiaobei was explaining to the children of the Duo tribe how to best match the ingredients in the hot pot. He was very serious. When he heard his brother's words, he responded with a big smile and promised, "Don't worry. I won't eat so much meat today, nor will I eat rice. I'll just eat mushrooms and green vegetables. Also, I'll chew them up to help my stomach digest. Just now, I drank a bowl of soup to fill my stomach. When the soup is gone, I won't be full anymore." Zhang Xiaobao nodded. This was a good idea. He would drink the soup first, and when he felt full, he would stop and wait for the soup to be digested. He would feel better. Xiaobei turned around, picked up a plate of mushrooms, and placed it in front of the children of the tribe. "Eat mushrooms. Eating mushrooms is good for the body. Don't just eat rice. I found that you guys can eat too much. Your appetite is comparable to people with big appetites." Immediately, an interpreter helped to explain to the children. The child in front of Xiaobei quickly ate a few mouthfuls of rice. Only then did he put more than 10 mushrooms into the small hot pot. He smiled at Xiaobei embarrassedly and continued to eat. The children in the tribe liked to eat two things, venison and rice. They even knew how to soak in the soup. Duo blushed shyly and explained to Zhang Xiaobao, "It's because your rice is too fragrant. We don't have the same kind of rice in our area. We eat wheat, and the meat doesn't taste good. Usually, we exchange the meat with the tribe. We can only eat one meal every few days. Sometimes, according to your calendar, we can't even see meat in a month. Yes, there is no oil in the stomach, and there is little salt, so the children eat more. You don't have to worry in the future. The children eat for 10 days to half a month. Look, they won't feel hungry after eating 3 meals like now." Zhang Xiaobao understood. In the past, the children of the villagers were like the children of the tribes. One reason was that they exercised a lot and needed to grow up. Another reason was that they didn't eat much oily food. The more they ate, the poorer they became. The poorer they were, the more they could eat. Their productivity couldn't keep up, so it was useless to say anything else. When Duo and Zhang Xiaobao talked, Simo Duomo was unwilling. He admitted that he couldn't compare to the Tang people, and that he had used the wrong strategy. But he was the leader of the entire tribe. Unless he returned to the country, his status would be lowered. If he was afraid of the Tang people, how could he be on equal footing with the leaders of a small part of his tribe? So he glared at Duo and said, Duo, why didn't your people stay at the place I arranged? What are they doing here? He was speaking in his native language. Zhang Xiaobao found it difficult to translate, but he still understood what he meant. He smiled and continued to eat the meat with his chopsticks. Duo was shocked and lowered his head. Then he realized, that's not right. I won't be under your command in the future. What right do you have to criticize me? I don't have many people, 126 in total. But I'm following the Tang people now. I'm not afraid of you. Thinking of this, Duo suddenly felt very comfortable and happy. He drank a mouthful of soup and nodded in satisfaction. He pushed a plate of deer tendons in front of Simo Duomo and said with a smile, Simo Duomo, leader Simo Duomo, try this. There's something called chili in it. It tastes very good. You're here as a guest, so don't be polite. Eat well and eat until you're full. The meaning of these words was obvious. Duo treated himself as the host and Simo Duomo as a guest, and not as Simo Duomo's subordinate. You. Simo Duomo was dumbfounded. How could he not see Duoduo's attitude? He clearly wanted to leave the tribe. Simo Duomo couldn't say the rest of his words, nor did he touch the plate of tendons. He lowered his head, suppressed his anger, and began to think. Simo Duomo had to admit that he had never directly looked at Duoduo's small tribe of more than 100 people. In a small tribe of more than 100 people, there were old people, women, and children. There were far too few people who could participate in the hunt. Moreover, Duoduo's tribe didn't know how to grow wheat, nor did they know how to use nets to catch fish. When they finally managed to catch a few fish, they had to exchange it for wheat and salt. They were used to being bullied, and then they were sent to that outpost. He had never imagined that they would one day betray him. This was truly too infuriating. Duo, if you're not willing to go back now, I won't care. You can follow the Tang people for a while. Once the Tang people are gone, the things you earn will still be yours. I won't take them, Simo Duomo said to Duo after thinking for a while. Duo wasn't stupid. How could he not understand the meaning of his leader's words? He was clearly threatening him. Duo didn't say anything, instead looking at Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao had just finished rinsing a piece of meat and was about to put it into his mouth. When he heard the conversation between the two, he also used his rather poor Hindustani to answer. Haha, leader Simo Duomo, you don't need to worry about Duo. We'll always lead his tribe. Once the Duo people are beaten into submission and obediently give us tributes every year, I'll bring Duo and the others back to the Great Tang to live a better life. You should think about the competition. What are we competing in? Simo Duomo was shocked. He originally thought that he knew a bit of the Great Tang language and could use the local language with Duo to get around this Zhang Xiaobao. Who would have thought that Zhang Xiaobao also knew the language of his people and even stood up to help Duo? He finally understood that he wouldn't be able to control Duo and the others in the future. Betrayal, this was betrayal. If I didn't treat you well, would you betray me? Simo Duomo glared at Duo again, but Duo responded with a sneer and straightened his neck, with an attitude that said, do whatever you want. Simo Duomo couldn't think of any other way. He took a pair of chopsticks and put it in his mouth to chew. The more he chewed, the more satisfied he felt. The spiciness and toughness of the tendon made his whole body feel comfortable. After eating the tendon, he said to Zhang Xiaobao, I think there's no need to compete. You guys go your own way. We can give you some things. No need to compete. Okay, then let's talk about how you helped our enemy, the Duo people. With your help, the Duo people dared to camp by the river and attack us, causing us great losses. A few people even lost their precious lives. How do you think I should settle this with you? Zhang Xiaobao slammed his chopsticks down and asked Simo Duomo with a gloomy face. The commotion around them suddenly disappeared, and everyone looked over. How could Simo Duomo have known that Zhang Xiaobao's mood would change faster than one could flip a book? He opened his mouth slightly, looked at Zhang Xiaobao, and then glanced at the various gazes staring at him. After a few breaths, he trembled and said, We helped them. In fact, it was them who threatened us. No, it wasn't us who wanted to fight with you. In other words, you were afraid of them threatening us and then causing us to suffer great losses because you weren't afraid of us, right? Zhang Xiaobao pressed. You didn't lose anything. We died, 6 people. Zhang Xiaobao grinned, revealing his teeth. I know that the 6 people who died weren't killed by the Arabs. They died of their own accord. Simo Duomo refused to admit it. They could have died if they stayed in their own homes. If you didn't help the Duo eaters, they wouldn't have set up camp by the river. If they didn't set up camp, we wouldn't have sent troops over. If we didn't send troops, there wouldn't have been a battle. If we didn't fight, how could our 6 people have died? And our supplies, the ammunition we used to kill the Duo eaters, isn't that money? In order to support us in this battle, some of the great Tang people collapsed in the munitions factory from exhaustion. Others suffered heat stroke while helping to repair the road. The donkey that should have been pulling the mill didn't pull the mill. When they came here to pull things, someone had to pull the mill. Our losses were great. What did the Duo eaters threaten you with? Tell me, and I'll treat you like how the Duo eaters threatened you. Aren't you not afraid of my great Tang? Zhang Xiaobao slapped the table as he spoke. It sounded very reasonable. Of course, Simo Duomo couldn't tell the truth. He could say that the Arabs had agreed to give them a lot of salt after taking over the salt-producing area. After being pressed by Zhang Xiaobao, he had no choice but to lower his head and say to Zhang Xiaobao, Sir, don't be angry. What do you think we should compete in? We'll compete. Oh, I'm not angry. I'm just excited. Haha, come, eat. What are you standing around for? Eat. Leader Simo Duomo, are the tendons tasty? When you go back, I'll bring some back for you. We'll talk about the competition later. You can go back and think about it. But what I want to say is that since it's a competition, there naturally needs to be a reward. Why don't we make a bet? What do you think? Okay. What else could Simo Duomo say? He only felt sullen. He had to endure Zhang Xiaobao's constant flip-flopping because he couldn't beat the Tang. Chapter 1337. During the meal, Zhang Xiaobao was very happy and personally sent Simo Duomo out of the camp. Simo Duomo was not full yet. He had many things on his mind. At the same time, he felt a lot of pressure, so much so that it was unbearable. The people who followed him here ate quite well, especially the salted vegetables prepared by the camp. Basically, each of them ate at least 2 plates. Finally, they saw salt that was free and not bitter to eat. They reckoned that they could drink water to their heart's content before going back to sleep. Walking back in the darkness, Simo Duomo was still regretting that he had chosen the wrong person. He shouldn't have been swayed by the Arab's words. Even if the king had ordered him to stay so far away, disobeying a little wouldn't have been a big deal. He had helped the Arabs, but he hadn't received any benefits. Now that trouble had come, the king had offered no help at all. He didn't believe that the king wouldn't be able to get some information. It seemed that just like how he didn't care about Duodwa's 100-some men, the king didn't care about him. The stakes are too high. You want to wipe out my clan? As Seymour Demogo walked, he remembered the last bet they had discussed. He stopped and looked up at the sky, muttering to himself. The sky was pretty good tonight. There were stars twinkling, and there was also a crescent moon. But Seymour Duomo always felt very oppressed, as if there was going to be a heavy rain. The content of the competition was decided by him. When the time came, both sides would discuss the specific rules to ensure fairness. However, the stakes could not be changed. If the tribe won, they would be forgiven by the great Tang. Furthermore, in the future, large amounts of salt would be sent to them every year. Just like what they ate today, there was no bitter taste, just a comforting saltiness. If they lost, the tribe would have to follow the Tang people. They would hunt, carry things, and dig for wild vegetables. Of course, they would also be able to obtain salt. However, the food would depend on what the Tang people gave them. There was definitely no good rice, and there were other foods that they had never seen before. King, let's fight it out with them. He didn't know what had happened to the king, but he could feel that the king was not happy. That's right, one of the bodyguards said to Simo Damoga. Using the light of the moon and stars, Simo Duomo looked at the person who was speaking. The corners of his mouth moved as if he was mocking himself. He said, "Fight? More than 3,000 of us? They won't be afraid of us dying in front of them. They won't hesitate to kill us. Go back and have a good rest today. I'll think of something." The group sped up and returned to their home. The place where Seymour Domo lived was not bad. It was not a shack. He had a stone house, a courtyard, and a woman in the courtyard. Today, he was not in the mood to pamper the women. He knew that he had to think of a few good competitions to win against the great Tang people first. As for whether the great Tang people would be angry after winning, the worst result would be that he would lead his people to act together with the great Tang people as if they had lost. As for the children, they ate the candy and were taken care of by Xiao Bei and the others. He didn't betray the tribe, but the tribe didn't treat him as a member of the tribe. The happy Duo did not care about his own people when Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were drinking tea. He joined in the fun. He had never drunk something that was a little bitter and then a little sweet. Zhang Xiaobao was in charge of making tea. He did not put out the kung fu tea. There was an outsider who did not understand kung fu tea. Zhang Xiaobao felt that it was better to just chat casually instead of explaining from beginning to end. It was just a teapot filled with tea leaves. He washed it and then poured it into the three people's tea bowls. Duo was not afraid of the heat. After pouring more than half a bowl, he drank it directly. He watched as Zhang Xiaobao refilled it and drank it again. The bitter taste in his mouth seemed to be very comfortable. "Fill it up for me. There's always a gap." Duo found that every time Zhang Xiaobao poured tea for him, there was still a gap between the bowl and the mouth. He felt that he was drinking less. Zhang Xiaobao still poured more than half a bowl for Duo and explained, "It's rude to fill the bowl with tea. It's not convenient to hold the bowl when drinking. In our Tang, it's called bullying the guest when the tea is full. When you go to the Tang in the future, you must be careful. What competition do you think Seymour Duomo will propose?" Wang Wan slowly lifted her own tea bowl and drank gently. She tasted 2 small sips and then drank a big mouthful. She also thought about Duo. After all, the other party was the most familiar with the local traditions. Duo first felt that Zhang Xiaobao's words about not filling the bowl to the brim were very interesting. Then he was stumped. He also could not guess what kind of competition the original chief would propose. It seemed that his people had no advantage over the people of the Great Tang. Competing in eating and drinking? The difference was too big. Competing in hunting? The Great Tang people had guns. Competing in fighting with warriors? When Zhang Xiaobao set up camp at night, the knife that suddenly appeared seemed to be very powerful. Shaking his head, Duo said embarrassedly, "I don't know. Maybe it's a competition of strength to move big stones." "Oh." Zhang Xiaobao nodded and began to ponder. He tried to determine if the people on Simo Domo He's side were strong or not. According to their race, daily nutrition and training, he found that the people on Simo Domo He's side did not have any advantage. There were a few strong people in his team who were born with great strength. There's no need to think about what competition. If there are rules, we can continue to talk. Wang Wan was very relaxed and did not seem to be anxious. That's right. If they want to move stones, we can add tools in the rules. I don't believe that their tools can be compared to ours. Zhang Xiaobao said with a smile. He raised his head and drank the tea in the bowl. Then, he poured more for the 3 people. Duo drank and felt that this thing called tea was very magical. In the past, he had only heard about it from others but had never tasted it. Even the people of Great Tang who saved him did not let him drink it. He watched as Zhang Xiaobao squeezed a small ball into the flask and poured the water non-stop. The water that flowed out had that smell, so he drank as much as he could. He wanted to see if the small ball would always have that smell. In addition to the food he had eaten before, he finally could not drink anymore. He could only slow down and ask, "Why does this tea always have that taste?" "Because this is good tea. It can be brewed more than 10 times. Now, it has only been brewed 4 times. If it's your first time drinking, I advise you not to drink too much. Otherwise, you will get drunk and can't sleep at night." Zhang Xiaobao finally understood why Duo kept staring at the teapot and drinking. He wanted to drink until the tea lost its taste to verify his guess. How persistent was he? A persistent man was very cute, even though he was a little darker, thinner, and shorter. Duo nodded repeatedly. So it was not that the tea could be brewed continuously. It was because the tea was good. As for why he could not sleep, he would know at night. Leader Simo Domo used to have tea before, but he never let me drink it. He treated it like a treasure. Is it not as good as your tea? Duo recalled something and drank another sip. He felt better. The leader did not let him drink before, but now he could drink it. Zhang Xiaobao continued to pour water for him. Yes, the tea that Simo Domo drank was fermented black tea. If it was the tea that he got 20 years ago, he could not bear to drink it. Now, it is not bad. What we drank was green tea. Even if he kept the black tea for 20 years, it would not be as valuable as our tea now. Because no one would bring good black tea here, the good tea was sold in Great Tang. Anyway, you don't know how to drink it, so it would be a waste to give it to you. Duo sighed. He knew that Zhang Xiaobao was telling the truth, but it was really a blow. He wanted to know the value of the tea, so he asked, "How much salt can it be exchanged for?" Zhang Xiaobao was speechless. Wang Wan smiled. Did they have to use salt to calculate the value of everything? The pot of tea that we drank is enough for 126 of you to eat for half a year, including the cost of transporting it. Zhang Xiaobao kindly gave a rough estimate. Duo rubbed his stomach and said, "I can still drink it. If I continue to brew it, it will lose its taste." "You can still drink it tomorrow. We brought a lot of tea," Zhang Xiaobao kindly advised. Duo firmly said, "Brew it." After thinking for a while, he asked, "If Simo Domo did not work with the Arabs to fight Great Tang, would I not have met you?" A smile appeared on Zhang Xiaobao's face. After a pause, he said, "You were too close to Great Tang. You didn't use this area very well. It's just that if we met in that situation, we wouldn't know if we were friends or foes. Forget it, there are no ifs." Duo understood. No matter what Simo Domo chose, the Tang would eventually come. It was just like how a large tribe would eventually occupy a small tribe. "It's good that you came. Drink some tea." Duo rubbed his stomach and felt that he could drink again, so he signaled to Zhang Xiaobao to pour some tea for him. The next morning, everyone else was very energetic, but Duo's eyes were a little bloodshot. Even after washing his face with cold water 3 times, he was still in a daze. He finally understood why one could not drink too much tea. Yesterday, he was the only one drinking tea. Afterward, he felt a little dizzy and returned to his tent. Before lying down, his head hurt a little. He wanted to sleep, but when he lay down, he found that he could not. He still had a headache. After some time, his head no longer hurt, but he still could not sleep. Thinking and thinking, he finally fell asleep in a daze. But just as he closed his eyes, someone came to wake him up for breakfast. After washing his face 3 times and drinking a bowl of porridge, Duo felt a little better. He advised Zhang Xiaobao, who had finished breakfast first and was drinking tea with a small pot. "You can't drink too much tea. It will make you feel guilty and then you won't be able to sleep. Thank you for reminding me. I changed to a small pot. Zhang Xiaobao thanked Duo very seriously. The one with redder eyes than Duo was Simo Domo, who did not drink tea yesterday and also did not rest well. When he woke up in the morning, he did not eat. He simply washed up and brought 25 people to the great Tang camp. He was led to see Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Along the way, he smelled the porridge. When he saw Zhang Xiaobao, he also smelled the faint fragrance of tea. His stomach growled. Leader Simo Domo, have you thought about what you want to compete? Zhang Xiaobao asked very kindly. He even took a small tea bowl and poured tea for Simo Domo. Simo Domo first nodded his head and expressed his thanks. Then he said, I've thought it through. 3. 2 wins. He also sent people to the cliff to see how deep the water was and whether there were any shallow reefs. He didn't want to accidentally fall to his death. The pool where Xiao Bei was going to compete in diving also had to be checked. If there were big water snakes or other water monsters, Xiao Bei might not be able to handle them. In the end, when Zhang Xiaobao woke up in the afternoon, the people who went to report that the cliff and the lake were the same place. The water was very clean and deep. There were big fish in it, but they couldn't dive too deep. There were water plants. Hence, Xiao Bei brought 2 small knives with her to cut the water plants. Zhang Xiaobao deliberately went to the toilet. He didn't eat lunch and only drank some soup to adjust his body to its best condition. The group of people came to the lake where Seymour Demoga's tribe was. Seymour Demoga had also woken up and brought people to welcome them. Everyone in the tribe had basically gathered. Only those who were farther away, like Duo, didn't know the news. Anyway, Seymour Demoga didn't care. Everyone already understood that the 3 bets today would affect their fate. If they won, they would have good days and no longer have to worry about salt. If they lost, they would have to work for others. Moreover, they didn't know what would happen in the future. What shall we compete in first? Zhang Xiaobao looked up at the cliff. On the west side of the lake, there was a cliff. The bottom of the cliff was hollowed out by the water. On the east side, there was a mountain that extended into the water. The bottom of the mountain was also hollowed out, but it wasn't as serious as the west side. Zhang Xiaobao knew at a glance that a river had once passed by, and it was a very big river. It formed a canyon and then turned into a lake. The west side was affected by the Earth's rotation, so the impact of the water was stronger. There was no way to know the specific changes, but the local scenery was indeed very good, especially the lake. It was suitable for farming and raising fish and prawns. After completely occupying it in the future, he had to build a beautiful restaurant with a polo field, a football field, a table tennis court, and all kinds of football fields. Water polo couldn't be left out. The more he thought about it, the more Zhang Xiaobao felt that the future was better. For a moment, he began to design the layout according to the scenery in front of him. Let's compete in dice first, Zhang Xiaobao. Simo Demoka's voice interrupted Zhang Xiaobao's thoughts. Yes, we can also build a casino. Zhang Xiaobao clapped his hands and said happily. Then he turned his head and looked at Simo Demoka. Okay, dice. Are you ready? Simo Demoka nodded and brought Zhang Xiaobao to the front of his courtyard. There was a place that looked like a square. It seemed to be used for some kind of ceremony. There were a few people in the tribe wearing clothes that were of good quality. They were fine linen and had color. They stood beside a bowl. Zhang Xiaobao understood that they were witnesses. They were afraid that he would go back on his word. He nodded to Duo and Wang Wan. The 2 of them also stood over. Looking at the bowl, Wang Wan praised, "Not bad, it's made of ivory." Then she said to Duo, "Your tribe doesn't lack good things." Duo looked at Simo Demoka with anger in his eyes. "You use ivory things, but no one cares if my children starve to death." Simo Demoka didn't have the mood to care about Duo. His attention was focused on Zhang Xiaobao. He waved his hand and someone brought over a box with beautiful carvings. He opened the box and there were a few dice inside. He signaled to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao looked at them. The dice were also made of ivory. It was the same as the ones used in Tang. There were 6 sides and the number of points was the same. So he took out the dice one by one and weighed them in his hand. In the end, he picked out 3 that were about the same weight. They felt good. It seemed that they were often played with. Let me try a few throws. After Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking, he didn't wait for Simo Damoka's agreement. He picked up a dice and threw it into the bowl. He took it out and changed to another one. He did the same 3 times. Then he threw 2 pairs of dice into the bowl. In the end, he threw 3 dice together. Okay, let's start. Who's going first? Zhang Xiaobao threw a few rounds and asked Simo Damoka. Simo Damoka didn't say anything. He also took the dice. Like Zhang Xiaobao, he tried it. Compared to Zhang Xiaobao's casual manner, his hands were sweaty. After thinking for a while, he said to Zhang Xiaobao, "You go first. Best of 3 wins." Okay. Zhang Xiaobao happily agreed. He took the dice and wiped them on a white cotton cloth. He weighed them. The 3 dice lined up in a row in Zhang Xiaobao's palm. Zhang Xiaobao's flat hand suddenly flipped and the 3 dice spun into the bowl. There was some distance between each dice and they didn't collide with each other. After they spun a few rounds in the bowl and were about to stop at the bottom of the bowl, there was a slight contact. When they stopped, 3 sixes appeared in the bowl. The spectators looked at the 3 sixes in astonishment. Then they looked up at Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao's expression was indifferent. When he met Wang Wan's gaze, there was a hint of embarrassment. This was because he had cheated. Normally, when throwing dice, one couldn't make the dice rotate around a single point. That way, one could easily grasp the state of the dice when they stopped. Moreover, although it looked like he was throwing them together, there was a sequence to prevent them from colliding. But people nowadays didn't pay attention to this, so he cheated to bully others. Of course, he first had to have a strong foundation. Otherwise, even if he knew the theory, he wouldn't be able to throw it. Simo Damoka didn't know that there was such a trick. When he used it against Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, his hands would be chopped off. In an instant, he was sweating all over. The sweat on his forehead gathered together and dripped down his temples and eyebrows. He knew that what he saw was definitely not a coincidence. 3 sixes. Why did he choose this kind of game? He had met an expert. Simo Damoka, please. Zhang Xiaobao gestured with his hand. Simo Damoka used his sleeves to wipe his sweat and rubbed his hands on his body. He trembled as he picked up the dice in the bowl. He put his hands together and shook them while chanting. When he opened his hands again, the 3 dice hit each other in the ivory bowl and made a crisp sound. When he stopped, it was 4-5-3. The spectators in the tribe were disappointed. They felt that their leader wasn't performing well. Usually, when he threw, he would always throw a big number. 6, 6, 6, 6 was also possible. Zhang Xiaobao picked up the dice again. Just like before, he gently shook it twice. The 3 dice faced up and lined up in a row. There was a gap in the middle. He then continued to throw. This time, there was finally a deviation. The dice in the bowl were 6, 6, 4. Zhang Xiaobao smacked his lips. I missed. The last bit of hope in Simo Damoka's heart disappeared. He confirmed with Zhang Xiaobao that he was not stupid. When he picked up the die again, his hands were trembling even more. His whole body was trembling as well. With a crash, when the die came to a stop, he swayed a few times and gasped for breath. Only then did he not collapse. He then looked at Zhang Xiaobao and laughed. He, I also got 6, 6, 4. Congratulations. Zhang Xiaobao didn't care at all. He did the same thing as before. He waved his hands and the dice stopped. 6, 6, 6, 6. He said to Simo Damoka, please. Simo Damoka reached out to take the dice. Suddenly, he raised his left hand and grabbed his left chest. His face was pale, his eyes were wide open, and his mouth was open. His body slowly fell. Ugh. His psychological quality is too bad. Quick, doctor, take a look. Don't let him die. Zhang Xiaobao knew what was going on. Was there a need to be so nervous? It was just a competition. A doctor immediately came over and listened to his heartbeat. He took his pulse and opened Simo Damoka's mouth. He let him sit there and took out a nitroglycerin tablet and put it under his tongue. After waiting for a while, Simo Damoka's face finally returned to normal. His lips were no longer purple, but his eyes were still hollow. Zhang Xiaobao looked at Simo Damoka's state and was in a dilemma. He wanted to remind him that he hadn't thrown the dice yet, but he was afraid that if he said that, his eyes would roll back. Chapter 1339. What did you feed me just now? Seymour Duomo waited for a while before he regained his senses. The first thing he thought of was not gambling, but something that could save his life. Zhang Xiaobao could understand this, and at the same time, he was not afraid of revealing his secret. He explained, "It's a type of medicine. At first, the people who made this medicine wanted to use it to help with explosives. Later, it was used in war. For example, the weapons we are using now contain this thing. But at the same time, it can also save people. The effect is very good, like what you are doing now. But let me tell you the truth. Your illness is not that simple. Otherwise, the doctor would have given you the quick-acting heart rescue pill and not the nitroglycerin tablets. Did you suffer from the same illness in the past? The doctor's methods are very good." Seymour Duomo did not really understand, but he knew that the Tang Dynasty's medical skills were very good, whether it was killing or saving people. He was now worried about what Zhang Xiaobao said. He did suffer in the past. Could it be that he was in a very dangerous situation now? Zhang Xiaobao also thought so. He did not know why the doctor gave Seymour Duomo nitroglycerin and not the heart rescue pill because nitroglycerin was cheap. The heart rescue pill needed to be added with other medicines, and the cost was high. It was not worth it to use it on outsiders. As for these Chinese medicine formulas, both Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan easily obtained them. Wang Wan's family background was there, while Zhang Xiaobao's was simple. He just had to go overseas. The formulas that were kept secret in the country had to be told honestly when they were sold overseas. Some formulas even had to be told about the process. This was because the foreigners would doubt if there were any harmful substances in the production process. At the same time, the taboos and side effects were written very clearly. It was unlike in China, when you read the instructions, the taboos and side effects would be unknown or not clear. At that time, it really scared the people in China for a while. Later, when the internet was developed, and basic education in English was available, everyone jumped over the wall to look for information. No one knew if this was the misfortune or luck of the smart people. Conflicts were everywhere. Zhang Xiaobao could even obtain additional benefits in this kind of struggle. As long as he used some small tricks, he would be able to obtain many secret recipes. Then, he could change his appearance and take them out to swindle money. Then, they would work together with the local drug dealers to increase the price of medicinal herbs. Now was the time for him and Wang Wan to play their roles. In other words, the two of them had been playing their roles all along. They had saved a lot of detours. From the production of nitroglycerin to its application, the process had been smooth. Not a single person had died. It was very miraculous. They had to thank those who had died before. Right now, Seymour Duomo and Zhang Xiaobao were not clear about the specifics of the situation. The doctor, who was clear about the situation, was very clear about the cost of the heart-saving pill and the things that could be used as explosives. Furthermore, he was also clear that when the heart-saving pill was not effective, he had to eat explosives. The explosives worked quickly. Therefore, Zhang Xiaobao and Seymour Duomo both felt that Seymour Duomo was about to die. If his illness acted up again in the future, he would definitely not be able to survive. Zhang Xiaobao felt that if Seymour Duomo was willing to lead his tribe to serve him, he could always provide him with medicine and tell him what to pay attention to, just like how he treated Li Longji and his family. Seymour Duomo felt that if Zhang Xiaobao could prevent him from dying, there was nothing wrong with leading the tribe to follow him. If he died, would the tribe still listen to him? Thinking of this, Seymour Domo stood up again, took the dice, and casually threw it into the bowl. When the dice stopped, the numbers 1, 1, 2, 3, and 3 appeared. I lost this round, Seymour Domo said calmly. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan understood. The two of them looked at each other and saw joy and sadness in each other's eyes. They were happy that they had taken down the tribe, but sad that a leader had lost his will to fight and betrayed not only himself. In the face of life and death, Seymour Domo had lost. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan knew each other very well. If the other was the leader now, they would definitely fight to the last moment. Even if they lost, they would not let the other side look down on them. Thus, they would fight for more benefits. Leader Seymour Domo, what's the second round? Zhang Xiaobao did not cheer and asked very calmly. You say. Seymour Domo was also very straightforward. His meaning was very clear. They would compete in whichever one you felt had the greatest chance of winning. Zhang Xiaobao looked up at the cliff. Xiao Bei, who was beside him, quickly said, Let's compete in diving. Let me do it. I haven't swum to my heart's content in a long time. Let me do it. Okay, let's compete in diving. Let's see who can swim further. Zhang Xiaobao agreed. Seymour Domo was in a difficult position. He thought that Zhang Xiaobao's side would have a very strong person, but he did not expect that it would be a little girl. They would definitely lose. When the time came, they would win by climbing the cliff. They had the salt, but where was the medicine? Actually, it's diving. Zhang Xiaobao did not let Seymour Domo finish his sentence. Seymour Domo sighed secretly. He looked at the person beside him and gave him a lot of hints. The person he was hinting at nodded vigorously. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. The two sides began to change their clothes. Xiao Bei wore a very large set of clothes, while the tribesman only wore a small pocket around his waist. If his opponent was not a girl, he probably would not have given up on such a cumbersome thing. The two stood by the lake. With Zhang Xiaobao's order, they both dove into the water at the same time. As soon as they entered, they disappeared. After a while, the people on the shore could vaguely see a blurry thing moving forward under the water. Time passed slowly. Sweat appeared on Seymour Domo's forehead again. He hated that he could not personally jump into the water and catch the tribesman. He had hinted just now, but he did not expect that this idiot would think that he was asking him to persist. You persisted until the end. How much longer can I persist? Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan began to look at their watches. 3 minutes had passed. The two could not help but worry. They were not worried about Xiao Bei, but the other party. They could no longer see the figure under the water. It was too far away. After waiting for another minute, a head finally appeared on the surface of the water in front of them. Seeing this head, Seymour Domo did not know whether to be happy or sad. He did not wait for the other head. If that head did not appear, would Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan kill all the tribesmen in his tribe? That was their sister. At this moment, everyone felt that time was passing very slowly. It was as if they could hear their own heartbeat. Every beat was very clear. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the surface of the lake. 2 long minutes passed just like that. Just as Seymour Domo was about to send a few more people over to take a look, Xiao Bei's head finally appeared from a further place. She then placed her hands in front of her chest and treaded on the water as she walked back. From her upper body, it could be seen that she had taken off her bloated outer clothes. Inside, she was wearing a swimsuit. The tribesmen looked at Xiao Bei, who was treading on the water, as if they were looking at Buddha. She had been underwater for so long, but she was actually fine and came back alive. As she got closer, Xiao Bei did not show any joy on her face. Instead, the corners of her mouth turned downwards. She looked very unhappy as she opened and closed her eyes. When she got closer to the shore, the tribesmen on the shore were shocked. Xiao Bei's hands under her chest were digging into the eyes of a fish. That fish did not look small. Zhang Xiaobao quickly waded into the water to help. It was a carp. Zhang Xiaobao weighed it twice and estimated that it was around 12 to 3 caddies. If he was in the water, he would not touch it unless his head was out of the water. Such a big fish would kill him. After throwing the fish back with all his strength, Zhang Xiaobao carried his sister and said, "Amazing." Xiao Bei whispered into his brother's ear, "I don't feel any sense of accomplishment at all. I thought he was very powerful, but in the water, his speed was so slow. I didn't even need to take a breath before I ran in front of him, leaving him far behind. By the time I needed to take a breath, I was already a long way away from the surface of the water. If I had known, I would not have cheated. That would have been faster. Even if he held his breath for 10 minutes, what was the use if he could not swim the distance? I felt that this was very unfair to him, so I took a few breaths and caught a fish. Brother, don't you think it's amazing? There are carps here too. It's amazing. In the future, we will not cheat when we deal with him. Where is the thing?" Zhang Xiaobao replied softly. "It sank with a heavy object. I used up my qi. If we still have to bring the heavy object back, how are we going to get the fish? Let's make fish soup tonight. 1 fish is enough for us to drink." Xiao Bei still had a look of regret on her face. She had overestimated her opponent. On the shore, Shimo Duomo's eyes revealed happiness, but his face was full of pain. He glanced at his tribesmen and shouted, "We have lost. I know that all of you think the same as me and are unwilling to leave here, but we have to abide by our oath. We have lost the bet. From today onwards, we will follow the Tang people. We have to go to dangerous places, but we do not lack warriors. I believe that the places that the Tang people can go to will not be difficult for us. Now, I want to ask the Tang people if they are willing to abide by the bet and provide us with enough salt in the days that we follow them." As he shouted, Shimo Duomo looked at Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao immediately cooperated and shouted, "We are willing." "Did you hear that? Although we have lost some things, we have also gained some things. Now, go back and take the useful tools at home. Don't not come back. That is against the bet. Buddha will punish you. I will send troops to catch you back." Shimo Duomo shouted at the people around him again. Except for the original people on his side, those who came later immediately turned around and left to get the things. Zhang Xiaobao looked at Shimo Duomo's confident look and could guess what was going on. The important materials were in the hands of Shimo Duomo. If those people did not come back, once they lost the resources here, they would have a hard time in the future. They might even die because of lack of things. Zhang Xiaobao really admired Shimo Duomo. He could hide the idea of surrendering so deeply and speak of it so openly. If he did not consider his illness, but really knew the gap between his tribe and the Tang Empire, and thus gave up his independence, he was really great. Someone in the crowd on the shore was not satisfied and said to the person next to him, "Is it over? What about our competition?" "Now is fine," Xiao Yuan said to Su Yilong. Chapter 1340. Su Yilong and the 9 little guys did not participate. They stayed by the lake, looking at the mountain, the water, and the cliff hanging upside down. "Are we not waiting for the sunset?" Su Yilong's body trembled as she asked Xiao Yuan. He was excited. He had been suppressed all the way and never had the chance to show off his ability. He was always looking at the 9 little guys' performance. At this moment, he felt that he finally got a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He would defeat Xiao Yuan first and then defeat them one by one. Xiao Yuan looked up at the sun and quickly closed his eyes, saying, "We're not waiting. Maybe we'll be busy with other things later. Right now, this mountain, this water, this warm sun, and the slowly floating clouds. Of course, if you pick up a fish and write about it, it's fine too." Last question, is it writing modern poetry? What modern poetry? Su Yilong did not understand. Brother and sister will write it occasionally. It's a modern poetry written strictly according to the standard requirements. It's divided into 5 or 7 words. The standard poems and quatrains are different according to the beginning and end of the cycle. For example, "No need, we're not writing this. The rules are too strict and affect our performance. Writing poetry is not about rules, it's about expressing one's inner feelings, understand? Su Ilong was confused and quickly interrupted Xiaoyuan, saying with a guilty conscience. Xiaoyuan followed the good advice. Okay, not following the rules. Writing poetry can express one's feelings. Isn't it the same if it's written in vernacular? It's like a newspaper story. Yes, it's the same. But don't you think that poetry can better reflect one's literary level? Beauty knowledge, Su Ilong advised. Isn't modern poetry more beautiful? Is it more knowledgeable? Xiao Yuan continued. Let's not think about this today, okay? Let's talk about poetry. I'll go first. Do you see that cliff? Su Ilong also knew that she could not win against Xiaoyuan on the same topic because she used double standards, so she quickly changed the topic. Xiaoyuan looked in the direction Su Ilong pointed and nodded. I see it. There's a depression below. Very good, the poem is out. The first sentence, I see the cliff, is depressed. The second sentence, why? We're leaving. Xiao Bei's voice suddenly sounded. She stared at Su Ilong unhappily. Are you playing with us? I can follow up with your question, why is there a groove? When I turn my head to look at the other side, there is also a groove there. Haha, Xiao Bei, you're so cute. I'm just kidding. I'm not done yet. Wait, let's start. The water surface is boundless, reflecting the cliff. The mountains and ridges are hard to stop the rushing current. The movement and stillness are in harmony with the quiet and distant. After Su Ilong finished speaking, she looked at the 9 little guys and waited. After waiting for a while, seeing that they did not respond, she asked, How is it? To be honest, I don't know what it means. Xiao Bei pouted and said to Su Ilong, Yes, you are still young and can't understand so deeply. It's my fault. Su Ilong was helpless and had to apologize to the 9 children. Actually, it's not your fault. Let Lil Yuan do it. Lil Yuan, tell us a jingle. It has to be like a nursery rhyme. Lil Bei revealed a big smile to Su Ilong and instructed Lil Yuan. Xiao Yuan nodded and looked at the surrounding scenery. She raised her hand and pointed. The birds on the trees are chirping, and the water flowing under the trees is splashing. The fish and shrimps swam and swam until they reached the end of the cliff. There were vines halfway up the mountain, and green grass was sprouting. Can those wild vegetables be eaten? We have to dig them up. Hee hee, it's really nice. Lil Yuan, you're not bad. Continue to work hard and you'll be very powerful in the future. After listening to the nursery rhyme made by Xiao Yuan, Su Ilong felt that it was very difficult for such a big child to be able to write the rhyme. She quickly praised him and looked like a teacher. Her smile was so reserved and conceited. Xiao Yuan smiled shyly, then pointed to the tree and said, The birds on the trees are chirping, and they complain about the world when they reach the top of the mountain. Chun Xian's hair is frosty, and she's young. She's like a destroyed king, and she's killed in battle. She's like a gentleman, and she's worshipping the temple. My song, Ru Feng, always praises, and she's like a poem. Su Ilong was stunned when she heard it. She just felt that it was not easy for a child to write the rhyme, but in the blink of an eye, he started to use the rhyme. Moreover, it ran through the book of songs and praised the elegance. It was about a woman in a family who supported the family business on her own. Every time she reached the top of the mountain, she would complain about the long journey. There were elders and children in the family, and her husband was ordered to kill in the flames of war. This was fighting together with the king in order to open up new territory. Whether it was her song or your wind, they were praises. Was it a rhyme? This was actually called life. Using rolling ears, Ru Fon, Zhanbei Luo Yi, Wu, and Guanzi. Was this kind of ability something a child could have? Now that they were going to take the Imperial Examination and Advancement Examination, it was really easy to solve the questions. It was too demoralizing. This rhyme is better than the previous one. Brother Ilong, don't you think so? Xiao Yuan. Continue. I like to listen to rhymes the most. I don't understand any poems. Xiaobei's voice was still so sweet, and her smile was still bright. Su Yilong looked at the rippling lake in front of her that was blown by the wind. She really wanted to jump in and never come up again. It was so embarrassing. She even wanted to show off in front of Xiao Yuan. She finally came up with 4 lines, but Xiao Yuan used the rhyme right away. This was an impromptu poem. No one gave you time to think about it one by one. It tested not only your quick wit but also your foundation. How was it possible? Su Yilong felt that she was a failure, especially when she heard what Xiaobei said. Why was the usually cute smile so awkward at this moment? Yes, I don't understand poems, let alone compose them. The only thing Su Yilong could do was to agree with Xiaobei and return a smile, but no matter how she smiled, it was unnatural. Xiao Yuan's expression did not change much. Just like before, she pointed at the big tree again. The birds on the tree chirped. Looking up, the warm sun set in the east. Wild vegetables grow in the remote jungle, and new melons grow in the fertile soil of the hometown. Tian Qingming crossed 1,000 rivers, and dreamt of the 100 Gorge last night. Singing nursery rhymes softly, sleeping early, and smiling like a flower in auspicious times. I miss home too. Auspicious times and auspicious times can call people, right? No, we can't come here for nothing. We have to find more things that can't be seen in the capital and make them into specimens to bring back for our brothers and sisters to see. Are there any gems here? I don't know if they broke the pearls that I dropped last time. When Xiaobei heard Xiao Yuan's words, her eyes turned red. She sniffled and pulled Xiao Yuan along as she ran towards the place where Simo Domo lived. She felt that it was best to ask the local leader first. If there were any, they could use other seasonings to exchange for them. After all, the locals were stupid and could not eat gems. If they gave them something real, they would definitely be very happy. The 9 little guys ran to find Simo Domo and made a fair exchange with him. Su Yilong stood by the lake for a long time without moving. She understood what Xiao Yuan meant. She started with the same scenery and used 3 ways to tell him what it meant to go from simple to complex, and from complex to simple. There was no need for rhyme in the depths of love. Every word came from the heart. Using the simplest words to express the deepest meaning, this was the realm. As for herself, she was still in the process of going from simple to complex. She had not entered the stage of complexity. One day, she would use illusion and deliberately carve words and sentences to see Xiao Yuan's footsteps. Perhaps Xiao Yuan was still a little far from the truth, but he didn't need to carve anything. He said what he thought. It seemed like a habit, but it was actually accumulated to a certain extent. Su Yilong once again felt the terror of the 9 children of the Zhong family and Wang family. It seemed that her grandfather was right to send her over. Otherwise, she would still be flattering each other with the other officials of the same generation. She would be proud and complacent when she did something. Looking at the 9 little guys, they did a lot of things. When they met many tribes, they could immediately take the children to play and take good care of them. When she saw them every day, she felt that they were very happy. Of course, when she saw them happy, she was also happy. But thinking about it carefully, she realized that the places where they played every day were places where they were needed. When someone was sick or the work was not easy to do, they would immediately go over and help as if they were playing and chatting with the others. In other words, they took on the task of adjusting the atmosphere in the team. They had been infecting everyone with their happiness and innocence. They would also fall down and accidentally get scratched. Looking at them pouting and saying that it didn't hurt, the adults who were also injured seemed to feel that they didn't hurt, even if their injuries were more serious than the children. They can actually play a role in stabilizing the hearts of the troops and improving morale. They have never been a burden to the team. They never made others worry. Why did I only find out? Su Yilong said to himself in the lake. Then he was very annoyed. He thought that he was the only one who was useless. He couldn't do physical work, he didn't know how to cook, he couldn't bring happiness to others, and he didn't have the affinity that Xiaobei and the others had with the tribe's children. Damn, I'm actually a good-for-nothing. No, I have to follow and learn. Su Ilong strengthened his confidence. He was full of yearning for the outside world. He came to a conclusion. Once he followed the team to the end of this journey, he would learn 1,000th of the strengths of everyone in the team. When he went back and met the other officials of the same generation, those people would not be a threat to him. Just like Xiao Yuan's indifferent look when he was pulled away by Xiao Bei after he finished his last poem. Xiao Bei didn't take him seriously at all. It was really depressing. Chief Seymour Domo, where are you? Seymour Domo! Xiao Bei and the others shouted. They were brought to the hall where Seymour Domo had invited Zhong Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Chief Seymour Domo, I see you again. Hello, what's that? I heard that you have a white jade beauty. When Xiao Bei saw him, he first spoke with his hands behind his back and his feet moved. Chapter 1341. Xiao Bei, come here. Where's Su Ilong? Without waiting for Xiao Bei to finish, Wang Wan shouted first, then stared at Zhong Xiaobao. Zhong Xiaobao seemed to be very wronged and said, "There's only one sentence. The content is different. Don't you think this sentence is very domineering? I think it's very hooligan. It's the prelude to taking advantage of others." Xiao Bei, why did you run over? Wang Wan said to Zhong Xiaobao and hugged Xiao Bei, who ran over. Xiao Bei looked at Simo Domo He and said to his sister, "It's all Xiao Yuan's fault. It would have been better to compete with Su Ilong in poetry, but he had to suppress her. He also had to choose the theme of homesickness, which made me homesick. Then I thought, Ji Xiong Rui and the others can leave, right? They can call for help, right? I remember when I was young, I had such a big pearl and put it in the house. When I go back, should I bring them a bigger pearl? If they really can't find a big pearl, gemstones and the like will do. Naturally, I have to ask leader Simo Domo He. I won't ask for it for free. We can use our ancestral secret seasonings to exchange. 13 spices. Usually, we can't bear to eat it. For example, when they eat barbecued meat, we can put some. Brother. The latter part of the sentence was directed to Zhong Xiaobao. Zhong Xiaobao nodded solemnly. Yes, the ancestral 13 spices. If they are willing to take out more things to show their sincerity, 18 spices is also fine. It's easy to eat curry. While they were talking, Xiao Yuan and the others had already started to communicate with Simo Domo He. Simo Domo He could speak the Tang language, so there was no problem in communication. I know my brother is the best. Of course, my sister is also good. 18 spices? Why didn't I know? Xiao Bei whispered to his brother and sister. That's because your brother has never used seasonings that are 13 spices, let alone 18 spices. Those are for people who don't know how to cook. Look at the chefs in our restaurant. Which one of them would grind seasonings into powder and add them to their dishes? Also, I asked you to teach Su Jian's grandson something. Look at how you bullied him. Can't you let him have some self-confidence? Wang Wan also said in a low voice. Xiao Bei pouted. It's not that we're bullying him. It's just that he wants to gain confidence in his poetry through Xiaoyuan. If he were to look for me, wouldn't there not be so much trouble? How stupid was he? Using one's own shortcomings to attack the enemy's strengths, so it's not that we bullied him, but that he didn't succeed in bullying little Yuan. Yes. It's all his fault. It's fine. People get used to it after a few more blows. Don't ask Seymour Demoga for anything. He is also a poor man. If you want gems, you can find jadeite in the places we passed by on our way here. Now is a good time. I think we can find jadeite the size of a house. Zhong Xiaobao could imagine how big of a blow Su Ilong had suffered. Not to mention her, even he and Cuckoo sometimes had to memorize the information for their younger brother, little Yuan. When they needed to use it, they would ask him. 1% of talent was too powerful, and 99% of hard work could not make up for it. Of course, according to another theory, 100% of children had their own talent. It depended on the environment and the guidance of the adults. The simplest example was when a child was born. The right side of the brain was better developed. He used to use chopsticks with his left hand, but he was forced to use chopsticks with his right hand. Every time his left hand touched the chopsticks, he would hit it. After a long time, the child would not only change the hand that held the chopsticks, but it would also form a conditioned reflex to suppress the use of the right side of his brain. Then, the parents would say that their child was stupid. Was there any reason? Xiao Bei did not consider whether Su Yilong's heart was hurt. She was most interested in places with jadeite. She had jadeite jewelry of various colors, mainly red and green. No matter how she looked at it, it was more beautiful than glass. Brother, it's a mine, right? Our precious candy house. It involves too many lives and interests. Behind the beauty of every gem, there is blood. We will occupy the place where jadeite is produced, but we must stay away from our precious candy house. You can give every child a big cake, but it's impossible to make a jade bracelet for every child. The sweetest thing is the honey pastry of our precious candy house. The happiest way to eat it is to taste it with family. This is the true meaning of our precious candy house. It's not that the most beautiful thing is the jade bracelet of our precious candy house. The easiest way to get it is to gamble on raw stones. Our precious candy house has lost its soul at the same time that it has lost its care for its children. We let you participate in the animal husbandry industry because you can get substantial things to help the children from this industry, such as milk and meat. The mining industry can't provide direct help to the children. It's nothing more than making money and then using the money to buy the things the children need. It seems to be the same thing, but it's actually a different concept. As the owner of the candy house, when you see something, the first thing you think of should be what this thing is for the children, not how much this thing can be sold for. Then, you use the money to buy things for the children. After a long time, you will only remember money, but forget the most direct needs of the children. Everything will start to be measured by money, understand? Zhang Xiaobao patiently explained to his sister that it involved the inertia and philosophy of human thinking. Xiao Bei blinked his big eyes and thought for a while. He nodded and said, I understand. It's like when I fell and hurt my arm, the first thing you and big sister thought of when you saw me was, does Xiao Bei hurt? Was the fall serious? Instead of hearing that little Bei fell, you estimated that it would cost 5 strings of cash to treat her. Go, get someone to get 7 strings of cash. A fallen little Bei doesn't just need money. Even if the former doesn't have money, it's still love. Even if the latter has money, it's still indifference. Of course, it's even better if there's money and love. Once we participate in the mining industry, our thoughts will gradually turn to money. Zhang Xiaobao picked up his sister and placed her on his lap. He kissed her hard and said, Moi, Aya, our little Bei is so smart. It can't be helped. She's always been smart. Who's as stupid as Su Yilong? 10 years. It'll probably take 10 years to catch up to the current little Yuan. If he starts practicing every day from now on and works hard to learn, 5 years might be possible. Little Bei patted her chest and deeply agreed with her brother's words. Wang Wan finally asked about the specific situation. What did little Yuan do? Little Yuan let him know something about Buddhism and something you guys talked about before. That is, seeing a mountain is a mountain, seeing water is water. Seeing a mountain is not a mountain, seeing water is not water. Seeing a mountain is a mountain, seeing water is water. According to what you guys said, the last one is to find it 1,000 times in the crowd. It was as if Xiao Bei had won the competition. He was overjoyed and delighted. Little Yuan is already so amazing? Wang Wan was a little surprised. She naturally knew what that was. 3 realms. In literature, very few people could reach the last realm. When you deliberately emphasized in writing, the reader would feel the beauty. When you didn't emphasize, the reader would forget the way you wrote and only remember the plot. Zhang Xiaobao spoke at this time. He's not that amazing. Little Yuan doesn't have enough life experience. He can't understand many things thoroughly just by relying on the knowledge in books. His success this time is because he chose the topic of homesickness. Even children know how to miss. That's why he made Su Ilong suffer a blow. Little Yuan, right? Yes. My little Yuan didn't write about the profundity of history. He simply expressed his longing for his younger brother and sister because he's not stupid. Little Bei understood everything. That was why she said a jingle and a nursery rhyme to cooperate with little Yuan. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan looked at each other and stood up to walk out. Brother, where are you two going? Little Bei looked at Simo Domo when she asked. Didn't they want to discuss something with him? Zhang Xiaobao patted Little Bei's head. You guys talk to him. Your sister and I will take a look at Grandpa Su's grandson. Otherwise, when we go back and talk about it, I'm afraid your Grandpa Su will fall ill and be hospitalized. Okay, leave this to us. Little Bei agreed and ran to Simo Domo. Zhang Xiaobao just nodded at Simo Domo and then walked out with Wang Wan. Simo Domo, who was sitting there, was angry. He felt that he was left out. He looked at the children in front of him who were talking to him about a deal. He gritted his teeth and decided with a hint of revenge to get some benefits from the children. After that, if Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't agree, he would return the benefits. If the two of them didn't say anything, he would take it that they agreed. Compared to Simo Domo's complicated thoughts, Little Bei and the others were much simpler. They didn't think about who would get how much. They only felt that according to the actual situation of the local poverty, they would use 13 incense to exchange for other people's good things. Moreover, they were experienced and knowledgeable and could easily estimate the approximate value of each item. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who were outside, didn't know what Simo Domo was thinking. Otherwise, they would have kindly advised him not to play this kind of game with Little Bei and the others. That way, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. Not everyone could take advantage of the little guys. When the two of them found Su Ilong, they saw that Su Ilong was holding a basket that had just been carelessly woven with branches in one hand and a leek scythe in the other. The leek scythe was specially used to cut leeks. It was very easy to use. Once the scythe was cut, a bundle of leeks would fall. Moreover, it wouldn't hurt the roots. As long as you used your strength, it would definitely be a flat cut. The tool itself limited your normal movements, unless you deliberately cut in a crooked direction. When you encountered leeks with rotten roots, you could still dig downwards. With a gentle turn, the rotten roots would be dug out. Su Ilong was digging wild vegetables along the lake. When she encountered those that ate the top part, she would directly cut them. When she encountered those that ate the leaves, she would cut them close to the ground. When she encountered those that ate the roots, she would use the scythe to cut them out. For every wild vegetable, she would carefully shake off the soil, separate them, and carefully arrange them in the basket. What is he doing? Wang Wan looked at Su Ilong and realized that it was different from what she had thought before. She thought that Su Ilong should be sitting by the lake in a daze, listless. Zhang Xiaobao revealed a gratified smile, digging wild vegetables. And then? Wang Wan asked. Then, she would comprehend life and settle down to do the little things around her, instead of looking at the clouds and fantasizing about flying. If Grandpa Su saw this, he would definitely be very happy. Zhang Xiaobao praised. So that's how it is. It seems that he isn't afraid of being shocked at all. He adjusted himself really quickly. Let's dig too. Boil the wild vegetables in boiling water and dip them in sauce. Wang Wan suggested. Zhang Xiaobao picked the wild vegetables with her. After an hour, Simo Duomo walked out of the hall, looking very tired. Then, there was an obvious dejected look. Xiao Bei and the others were still happily talking and laughing. It's over. Another person who has been shocked. I don't know if he can recover as quickly as the previous one. Zhang Xiaobao looked up, shook his head, and said to Wang Wan. I guarantee that he took the initiative to scheme against the little guys. Otherwise, it would be impossible. Wang Wan added. Chapter 1342. The sound of Xiao Bei's laughter woke up Su Ilong, who was digging for wild herbs by the lake. He looked up at the 9 happy little guys, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. There was a look of relief on his face. Zhang Xiaobao happened to see Su Yilong's appearance when he raised his head. At this time, Su Yilong was not as high-spirited as before when he was following the team. He looked very easygoing and natural. Zhang Xiaobao knew that this was a sublimation of thinking. When Su Yilong returned, he would be much higher than the others of his generation. In that case, he would have an explanation to old man Su Jian. At the same time, the Tang Empire would have one more useful talent, or a good official. Although the children nowadays were educated, and the requirements for students during the imperial examination were getting higher and higher, which seemed very fair, in fact, it could not offset the advantages of the official family. This was inevitable. The same situation existed in any country and era with a system. Whether it was China, the United States, Japan, or Russia, one's family background had always played a very important role. Since he could not stop it, it was better to find a way to improve the personal quality of the official's children. If using a knife to cut off the water did not work, then adding fuel to the fire. Use the system to limit some of the power, and use the humanities to influence some of the officials. Even if there was still various kinds of corruption in the end, the number would naturally decrease. Try to improve the ability of the officials as much as possible, and at the same time ensure the relative income of the officials. Their salary must be in the upper class of society, and their welfare must be higher than ordinary people. Otherwise, they would be in a strong temptation. Yilong, how many wild vegetables have you dug? Zhang Xiaobao, who was in a good mood, waved to Su Yilong and shouted. Su Yilong slowly stood up, carrying a basket in one hand and a leek scythe in the other, and walked over. After a few steps, she tilted the basket so that Zhang Xiaobao could see the wild vegetables inside. She said, "Not much, only half a basket. It's enough to boil soup for a few people. It's not enough to cook vegetables." Huh? Why is it different? Xiao Bei jumped twice and came in front of Su Yilong. It looked at her carefully from head to toe and then looked at the wild vegetables in the basket with a curious look. Xiao Bei felt that the Su Yilong in front of her was like a different person compared to before. Her tone and actions gave her the feeling that she was calm, not deliberate or pretentious. Her gaze was no longer aggressive, but so gentle. "You've changed so quickly. What are you doing? Teach me. You teach me how to change my expression. I'll teach you how to negotiate. I'm very good at negotiating." Xiao Bei nudged Su Yilong and said, "I want to thank you all. Actually, I'm still me. It's just that I'm a little different after meeting you all. As for your skills, I must learn them. Even if I have to cook for you all every day, I must learn all of your skills. Otherwise, wouldn't I have come all this way for nothing?" Su Yilong lifted the basket in her hand and said to Xiao Bei, meaning that she was going to cook today. Xiao Bei took a step back and waved his hand. "No, let's learn from each other. As for cooking, please spare us. You're a good person. You can't torture us like this. But, we have a seasoning called 13 spices. It's still very good. If you don't believe me, you can ask Chief Simo Domo He." Xiao Bei smiled and looked at Simo Domo He. Simo Domo He's expression was not very good. During the negotiation just now, he did want to bully the little ones. He wanted to use an ivory bead to exchange for 50 kilograms of salt from Xiao Bei. His idea was very good. It was safer to exchange for the salt in his hands. Although they followed the Tang team and discussed before that there would be salt to eat, if one day they were angry, or if the whole team did not have enough salt, it would inevitably be a burden to the people in his tribe. He had some salt in his hands that could be used at critical moments. If the little ones could exchange for a few more ivory beads, he would have a lot of salt. He could dissolve it in water and drink it to make people feel strong. In the end, it was Xiao Bei and the others who asked what kind of seasonings they needed. He said that if they sold the salt directly, they would not sell it. They had to match it with seasonings. Therefore, the seasonings were expensive. He said that there were 18 kinds of seasonings, matching them with the salt one by one, then 2 by 2, 3 by 3, until there were 18 kinds of seasonings. In the end, There were 153 kinds of seasonings that were matched with the salt alone. Then, adding the 18 kinds of seasonings that were matched with the salt alone, it became 171 kinds of seasonings. Then he added 3 by 3, 4 by 4, and so on. He was confused, but there were a lot of them. After calculating, it was obvious that it was not possible. Simo Domo, he was not stupid. He did not want to talk about other things and only wanted to talk about salt. Xiao Bei and the rest of the 9 could not directly sell the salt. Although there was a lot of salt in the Tang, it was only useful if they carried it with them. Otherwise, if they did not eat salt, they would fall sick. They saw this point and used salt as the main condition to talk about other seasonings. This was because there were many seasonings in the area. Other than chili, many of the other seasonings grew well. Xiao Bei and the rest were puzzled. Why were there so many seasonings in the area? They did not know that if there were not so many varieties, their brothers and sisters could not eat curry every day in India. Even if they were imported, they had to take the climate into consideration. Therefore, it was said that the area itself was produced. Xiao Bei and the rest took out a few pieces of deer jerky for Simo Domo he to taste. Deer jerky was made with a few kinds of seasonings. They could not carry any seasonings with them. The smell was too bad. After Simo Domo he ate it, he felt that it was indeed not bad. When he heard Xiao Bei and the rest say that it would taste better with more seasonings, he could not help but be tempted. Xiao Bei and the rest struck while the iron was hot. They said that they could provide an unlimited amount of seasonings to Simo Domo he and his people. As long as they could eat it, they would provide all they had, including salt. The prerequisite was that Simo Domo he also had to give all he had. Simo Domo he was happy and said, "You can give me as much as I want." Xiao Bei said, "No, I want as much as you can eat. If you eat 1 jin of salt per person a day, I will give you 1 jin per person. If you can eat 2 jin, I will give you 2 jin." They went back and forth on this topic. Simo Domo he was very tired. They had 9 people, but he was only 1. After an hour, he agreed. When he agreed, he was in a good mood. He felt that he could hunt for ivory in the future, but he could not find seasonings and salt. Just as they were about to leave, Xiao Bei told him that there were seasonings in the area. If they wanted them, they had to send people to pick them. Then, there would be people in the group who would specially make them. They could eat as much as they wanted, but the prerequisite was that they had to pick them. If they did not pick them, it was fine. Their own group would pick them and provide seasonings. However, their own group would pick them, and the usual hunting of wild animals would be left to their tribesmen. Simo Domo he became depressed when he knew that there were seasonings in the area and that his own people had to work for them. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan saw his tired and depressed appearance. The 9 of them were, of course, happy because they still had a backup plan. They did not usually eat 13 spice, but it did not mean that 13 spice was worthless. There were many Tang people who did not eat much of it. If they continued to move forward and enter the territory of the man-eaters, they could still sell it to them. Besides, 13 spice or 18 spice, other than the influence of the season, there was also the secret recipe for processing. It was not that you would get 13 spice if you collected 13 kinds of plants. If the combination was not good, people would fall sick. There were things that were sun-dried and shade-dried, and special ones needed to be smoked. This was not told to Simo Domo he, and it was not in the agreement. When the time came, they would collect the plants that were in the current season and process 10 portions. They would just give them 1 portion and say that the processing process failed. Simo Domo he did not know, or else he would fall to the ground again. Nitroglycerin would not be able to save him. When he heard Xiao Bei's words, Simo Domo he smiled at Su Yilong, but it was a forced smile. Su Yilong didn't even need to ask to know what was going on. She had heard too many legends about Xiao Bei and the others when they were negotiating with others. She knew even more about 13 spice. Although it wasn't very cheap, it wasn't so expensive that it was unbearable. Even if an ordinary family did not eat it, they could buy a bag for 12 copper coins and leave it at home. When guests came, they could cook it to enhance the taste. Just like tea leaves, That bag was enough to last them for half a month. Those who were slightly better off could eat it casually. Its biggest use was to cook meat. No matter how bad your cooking skills were, you could cook a chicken or some pork, put water in the pot, and add 13 spice. The taste would be good. Salt had to be added last. This was the current rule. If you added salt in advance, you would find that the same level of saltiness would require more salt. Unless it was specially made to make braised food, the salt had to be added first, and then it had to be soaked for a long time. At this time, Su Ilong was thinking about how Xiao Bei bullied Simo Domo He with the 13 spice. Simo Domo He's condition was obviously not right. He had just fallen ill, and it was not easy. However, after seeing Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, Simo Duomo, who was in a bad mood, suddenly revealed a peaceful smile. He instantly understood that what was his might not necessarily be his. Since he was going with the Tang people, he still had many good things in his hands. What would happen? Why not take this opportunity to exchange with the 9 children? He thought that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan would be happy to see that their younger siblings had more good things. You also know how to change your face. Xiao Bei was about to show off his achievements when he suddenly realized that Simo Domo He's expression had also changed. He could not help but feel puzzled. Zhang Xiaobao smiled and said to Xiao Bei, "They did not change their faces, but their hearts. People know how to give and take, so they are open-minded. Pack up and we will leave in 2 days." Oh. Xiao Bei agreed, but he still did not understand what was going on. He realized that he could not figure it out at the moment, so he stopped thinking about it. He snatched the basket from Su Ilong's hand, grabbed one end, and passed the other end to Xiao Yuan. The two of them carried the basket and skipped towards the campsite. "Do you still need me to do anything?" Simo Domo He asked Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. "Don't bring too many things, especially wooden tools that you don't usually use. Throw away what you need. When everyone is here, gather those who are sick together," Zhang Xiaobao said to Simo Domo He. Simo Domo He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I know, kill those who are sick." "What did you say?" Zhang Xiaobao asked in surprise. Chapter 1343. Zhang Xiaobao was shocked, and his gaze towards Simo Domoka was no longer friendly. Simo Domoka didn't know what was going on and was still explaining. "I said that I am willing to listen to your orders and kill the sick people." Don't say you'll listen to my orders. I'm not that heartless. If you were my enemy, I'd just be happy if you all died. But now, you're my people, and not my slaves." Zhang Xiaobao said firmly to Simo Domoka as he stared at him. Simo Domoka was stunned. Then why do you want me to gather the sick people?" "To treat them. Most of the people here are still young. They died because of illness or other problems, so those who are alive now don't have any serious illnesses. We have a medical team that can give you simple treatment. Not only the sick, but also your people. You all have to cut their hair and take a hot bath. I have medicine specially used for bathing. After that, change into new clothes. If you don't have new clothes, find a cloth to cover yourself." Zhang Xiaobao once again felt the cruelty of the slave system. This kind of disregard for life was even more thorough than his and Cuckoo's. He and Cuckoo had killed people, and he had used all kinds of methods to destroy the enemy. But that didn't mean that he didn't know how to respect life. He also felt uncomfortable when he killed people. He only did it for the benefit of the Tang Empire. There was no right or wrong. He had never said that he would torture people after they surrendered. Even if it was mining, he would give them enough food. He used the captives' physical strength, not their lives. The work they were doing was indeed dangerous, but that kind of danger was probabilistic. It was dangerous for anyone to do it, not just because of the captives. But the rulers of the slave system didn't treat slaves as people at all. They killed them so easily that it was no different from killing a chicken. It was no different from using boiling oil to feed a live donkey meat. Wang Wan also frowned. She had never thought that her hands were clean. If a soldier didn't have blood on his hands, What kind of soldier was he? He had also massacred a Tubo village before, killing both the old and the young. However, that was against outsiders. Now, Seymour Duomo understood the meaning of a massacre within the village. No wonder Duo didn't want to go back to the tribe. No wonder the local tribesmen didn't have such a strong sense of resistance. It wasn't that they didn't understand unity, but that their leaders abandoned them too easily. If they didn't have religious beliefs, they would have been finished long ago. Did you hear that? We're not asking you to kill him. We're treating him. Wang Wan looked at Seymour Duomo with a cold gaze. Seymour Duomo couldn't help but shudder. After he reacted, he nodded repeatedly. Yes, I know. You are the one who treated them. Let me say this first, I have nothing to exchange for this help when you do things. Our medical services are free. We don't expect you to give us anything. You arrange it. Zhang Xiaobao continued. Then, he didn't want to look at Seymour Duomo anymore. He pulled Wang Wan and left. Seymour Duomo stood where he was and watched the two people leave, as well as the guards hiding in the dark one after another. He sighed and muttered, "If I had known that you weren't going to kill, I wouldn't have said kill. Anyway, the old and weak will die slowly. I'll see if you can save them when we're on our way. You don't understand the cruelty here." Seymour Duomo felt that he was right. In fact, he also wanted to kill a lot of burdens. He felt that it was useless to keep those people alive. In the past, he always sent the old, powerless and sick people outside so that they could contribute to him at the last moment of their lives. With a sneer, Seymour Duomo touched the small bottle that contained the medicine to treat him and walked unhurriedly to his palace. A race that doesn't know how to love cannot survive. They will eventually be ruled or controlled by others. I guess he's still thinking that we don't understand the situation here. There are many weak and old people in the team and they think that our kindness is a joke. But he definitely doesn't think that without this kindness, we wouldn't have the status we have in Tang today. Should we give up on the old and weak? If we lost a battle and were running away, maybe we would choose to give up. But we definitely can't be so calm. I believe that every night, I will be awakened by nightmares. I saw Seymour Duomo's hesitation. At that moment, I didn't know whether he didn't want to kill or whether he was considering who to kill and whether he wanted to use this opportunity to get rid of the disobedient. Therefore, only a ruler who recognizes his own power and responsibility is qualified to survive in this world. Otherwise, when the people know that there is another ruler who cares for their people, they will inevitably rebel. At the same time, the foundation of the country will be shaken. You will find that even if you don't give him advanced weapons, many people in the country will die from violence. There will be more violent deaths than when you give him advanced weapons but know how to care for the people or fear the people. Zhang Xiaobao was provoked by Seymour Duomo. When he spoke, he was thinking about how to find a chance to kill Seymour Duomo. This kind of person can't be left alive. If he wanted to achieve a certain political goal, he could send Seymour Duomo to do things that would harm others. When he reached the point of infuriation, he would appear and kill Seymour Duomo. He believed that he would gain the favor of those who were bullied by him. But obviously, he couldn't do that. If he did that, his heart would be dirty. Sending someone to do it and using the lives of the people who did it to achieve his goal was worse than doing it himself. You mean to give everyone in Tang a gun? Wang Wan turned and asked. Why not? Do you think that you have to use a gun to kill people? As long as the laws against the people at the grassroots level are fair, even if they have the means to kill people who make them angry, they won't use it. It's people who kill, not guns. If possible, not only will I give the people of Tang guns, but I will also tell them that if an official bullies you and you don't have the chance to send a telegram and your life is threatened, then you should shoot. Shoot at that official and shoot at the person who threatens your life. Zhang Xiaobao made a shooting action as he spoke, and there was a cold smile on his face. If we do as you say, Tang will be in chaos. Well, at least that's what the corrupt officials of Tang will think. You don't need to say it, I'll say it for you. Wang Wan smacked Zhang Xiaobao's hand that was about to raise the gun and said, She actually understood that when people said that more people died from gunfire in other countries, it was actually a one-sided view. Countries without guns had more people dying from knives and bricks. When everyone had a gun, they naturally knew how to respect life. When everyone had their own car, they naturally wouldn't think that pedestrians had to let them go first. Respect came from the same social status. Social status depended on hard work and effort. Whether hard work and effort produced results, or rather, the probability of producing theoretical results, depended on the policies of the ruling class of the society. That's why we have to cherish this era. We have to maintain the development of economy and technology, strengthen traditional morals, strengthen the law, and create a stable social environment. Even the rulers have to act in the interests of the majority when they do things. Zhang Xiaobao concluded. Wang Wan smiled. Does that mean that Li Longji has no choice but to compromise? Li Longji is actually quite cute. Zhang Xiaobao also smiled. How is he cute? What are you looking at? As Wang Wan spoke, she saw Zhang Xiaobao looking around, so she followed suit. I'm looking to see if there are any spies. We have people in the palace providing information. Don't you think he's cute? He has no choice. Can't he just get rid of us? He's not stupid. He still wants to be the emperor. He's probably thinking of us right now and wants us to go back quickly so that he can travel. This means that his power is restricted. Even if he can tolerate the turmoil in the country, he can't tolerate the powerful weapons of an unknown country that can attack from thousands of miles away. When it reaches this level, he'll probably have other thoughts. Then he has to wait. Wait. Aren't we all waiting? Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan chatted all the way back to the camp, and they happened to see the little ones busying themselves there. There was a large basin filled with a lot of yellow-black, scrambled eggs. On the other side was a chopping board. Xiao Bei and the others took the small root vegetables out of the water and handed them to Su Yilong. Su Yilong held the knife in one hand and the small root vegetables in the other, working hard to cut them. Be careful, don't cut your hand. Our knife is very fast. You cut it one by one. Don't think that you're as agile as the logistics master in the team. When you find that you feel uncomfortable cutting the vegetables, you have to stop and adjust. Don't think that there's only a little left and cut through it, understand? Xiao Bei held a few washed small roots in his hand and nervously watched Su Yilong cut there. His mouth didn't stop talking. Su Yilong was sweating profusely. Looking at the muscles on his arms that were exposed when he rolled up his sleeves, she knew how nervous he was. But he still insisted, cutting while replying to Xiao Bei. I know, I've written it all down. You guys know more. I'm far worse than Xiao Chong and Xiao Gang. Then you still want to cut, let them do it. Xiao Bei glanced at Xiao Chong and Xiao Gang who were kneading the dough and said to Su Yilong, how can I let you do dangerous things? Otherwise, when Xiao Bao and Cuckoo see it, I don't dare to imagine the consequences. If the knife is not sharpened so fast, will it? It will cut off your hand. A blunt knife hurts people. Xiao Bei and the others usually use very fast knives. Not to mention cutting hair, as long as your hand touches it, it will definitely be cut. Zhang Xiaobao's voice came. Brother, sister, you're back. We were cutting the stuffing. We wanted to cut it, but we found that if we cut it, all the vegetables will fly away, so we had to cut it. Why, brother? Xiao Bei grabbed the small root vegetables and ran in front of Zhang Xiaobao. As he spoke, he put the small root vegetables in front of Zhang Xiaobao's mouth and let him eat. Zhang Xiaobao dodged back. Who put the garlic together with the small root vegetables? The color and size are different. Let's take a good look. Oh, I know the garlic, but there are only a few. It's not good to eat raw as it's too spicy. This thing is useless. Brother, why do you think it flew away when you cut it? Xiao Bei retracted his hand and looked. That's right, the garlic is there, purple skin. This is physics knowledge. If you want something to fly out when it's under force, you have to control the transmission of force and the physical characteristics of the current object. On the other hand, if you don't let something fly, you also have to control it. The easier it is to cut something, the harder it is to fly, so you have to fix it when processing metal parts. Then, there are 2 ways to cut vegetables. One is to do it like me. As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he stepped forward and picked up the other kitchen knife beside him. He took the mixture of root and garlic from Xiao Bei's hands and placed it on the chopping board. The knife rose and fell, and after a few swings, the mixture was cut into small pieces. Then, he continued to cut it into smaller pieces. This is the familiarity of the tool and the thing being cut. It also requires strong control. Practice makes perfect. It's very simple, but you need to persevere. Wow, brother is so awesome. Xiao Bei clapped his hands and shouted. Su Yilong stopped and listened carefully. She knew how Xiao Bao's cooking skills were, but she had only eaten before. She had never seen Xiao Bao cook. Today, it was an eye-opener. Why couldn't it fly? The knife was obviously not used for cutting. Zhang Xiaobao continued, There's another way. It's much simpler. Bring all the vegetables you've washed over. The few little guys brought the things up and piled them together. Zhang Xiaobao gathered them again and then began to cut with the knife. As he cut, he said, This method is to use other things to block the vegetables that are about to fly out. Stack the vegetables together, and the knife cuts in the middle. In fact, they will fly, but they will be blocked. The premise is that the chopping board must be fixed firmly. Otherwise, with the force of the chopping board, the vibration produced will still shake the things away. Observe more in your daily life. You will find that the thickness of the chopping board used to cut vegetables doesn't matter, but the chopping board used to cut vegetables must be thick wood, and it must be one piece, not a few pieces of bamboo stuck together. But we can't put metal plates, springs, and shock absorbers on the chopping board. That will reduce the kinetic energy of the falling knife. We need a tool table that can mitigate the force and hold it in. Only then can we use it to cut. This is actually the simplest physics analysis and application. When cutting vegetables, there is also a need to guide the flow. Similarly, when cooking, heating is inseparable from physics. We also have to pay attention to the chemical reaction. When different ingredients are put together, poisonous substances will be produced. This is called the mutual promotion and restraint of ingredients. The purpose of learning knowledge is to apply it. You have to do more often when you have nothing to do. Do it purposefully. This will not only promote your hands-on ability, but also deepen your grasp and understanding of knowledge. After Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking, the vegetables on the chopping board were also chopped. A few pieces flew, but most of them were not a problem. This was within the normal range. The vegetables that were chopped by the special grade chef would also fly. If he didn't want them to fly, he would cut them. Of course, there were also experts who would cut things flying when cutting vegetables. Chapter 1344. The 9 little guys were not willing to think about things that were too deep. They would only think about it when they needed it, and they were not worried about not being able to figure it out. They had brothers and sisters to back them up, and they had very powerful brothers and sisters. Therefore, what they were thinking about now was how to wrap the small root cabbage in a box and fry it in a pan. Today, they planned to cook a meal by themselves, including the cat ear soup that went with the small root cabbage box, but there was no fresh cucumber pickles. If the team came to travel, fresh cucumbers would not be a problem. Someone would specially carry soil and grow cucumbers on it. But now it was a war. Who dared to waste manpower and material resources like that? If there was a spare place, it would be better to fill it with salt or bullets. The 9 people who made the box for the first time were very nervous. Su Yilong also did not cook. He could not cut the vegetables well. What else could they expect him to do? As the main force of the box, Su Yilong was very excited. He felt that the action of making pancakes could be regarded as a kind of art. But only those who made pancakes every day understood that it was actually a kind of life. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan no longer went in to rest. Instead, they took out folding stools and sat down, watching their younger siblings and Su Yilong cook. The two looked at each other and remembered the first time they made wontons for their family. The same passion, the same excitement, and the different craftsmanship. Even if the little guys put their heart into the box they made was also strange. They could not even squeeze the edges of the box. Only the clumsiness can be seen in the simplicity. Great skills appear clumsy. Zhang Xiaobao did not care. There were only 3 consequences if the box was not wrapped well. First, the stuffing was leaked. Second, the stuffing was not cooked in the thick part. And third, the thin part was scratched. This was not a big problem. If the stuffing was leaked, it could also be fried and eaten. If it was not cooked, it was not a big problem. In the stuffing of wild bird eggs and small root cabbage, the bird eggs had to be fried first. The small root cabbage could be eaten raw or cooked. As for the scratched part, it could be eaten as a strange rice crust. As long as the little ones put their heart into it, no matter what they made, the adults would feel that it was delicious. Even the delicacies made by the top-class chefs were not as delicious as the noodles made by the children. This was the consensus of the adults in the world. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't care and just waited to eat. The little ones also didn't think about the food they made. They maintained absolute confidence that the food they made would definitely be good. Only Su Yilong, who was slightly older, was afraid. She was worried that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo would not like the food she made. From time to time, he would look at the pot, then at Xiao Bei and the others who were wrapping the boxes. He looked at the stuffing in the basin and suddenly had an idea. He suggested, "Can we add some meat inside?" Xiao Bei was tasting the newly mixed stuffing to see how it was salty. When she heard Su Yilong's movement, she raised her head to look at him and said helplessly, "Brother Yilong, cooking is the same as composing poems. It doesn't matter how much flavor you add, it depends on whether you can express a flavor. Just like the chive stuffing, if you want to add meat, you can. It's very simple. No matter what kind of meat you add, it's not a problem. It doesn't matter if it's nutritious mutton, warm chicken, or cold crab meat. It can all be mixed in." "But," I said, understand?" Xiao Bei was like an adult. It was very difficult for her to make food, but she ate a lot. When she reached a certain level, when she was used to the wind and waves, the trickling stream was the pursuit. Su Yilong knew what chives were. She didn't like to eat them usually. Every time she ate them, she would have a stomachache. It was only when she ate at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang restaurant that she was fine. He also didn't know what was going on. Seeing that Xiao Bei said that she could put everything, he asked, "Isn't it good to put venison?" "Okay, but we want to eat the pure taste of the root vegetables. The monarch, the minister, and the assistant minister are the rules. Whether it's used in medicine, calligraphy, or food now, who is the monarch and who is the minister? When you put venison, I only want to eat venison. Moreover, eating venison and root vegetables together is too nutritious." "Then why did you put wild bird eggs?" Su Yilong asked as if he was asking for advice. In terms of enjoyment, he was very clear that he was not the opponent of the little guys. Although they suffered a lot, that was because they were willing to. However, if they didn't suffer, when it came to enjoyment, he was far behind them. Xiao Bei spat out the stuffing in her mouth and reached for the salt. When she touched the box of salt, she paused. She bit her lower lip, looked up at the sky, rolled her eyes, and retracted her hand. "You can't put any more salt. If there's less salt, you can eat it with other seasonings. If there's too much salt, you can't reduce it. It's not like you're making takeout." "Then what did you say?" "Bird eggs. It's fresh." Brother and sister said that the simpler the organization structure, the fresher the taste. If you want to put things, you can put river prawns. It has to be big. Only meat, no shell. Sea prawns can't. Sea prawns are too fresh and will suppress the taste of the root vegetables. We want to eat the root vegetables. Then why not put river prawns? Su Yilong felt that there was a lot of knowledge in eating, so he became more and more curious. Because no one catches and peels prawns. If you want to eat something with 3 fresh stuffing, the egg has to be cooked, but the prawns have to be raw. If you boil the prawns in water, they become stuffing and then heat them up again. It's easy to cut your hand when you peel the raw prawns. I'd rather not eat it than do it. What if you get injured or infected? Xiao Bei shook her two chubby little hands, indicating that she didn't want to be cut. Su Yilong had to admit that she couldn't compare with the little guys in many aspects of life. For a moment, she couldn't help but feel envious. It wasn't that she hadn't experienced life, but that no one had ever told her this in her daily life. It seemed very simple, but there was endless knowledge in it. No wonder His Majesty also put his youngest children beside Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. They were the eldest princess and the first prince. It turned out that their education started from the bits and pieces of life. After an hour, the root vegetable boxes were done. Black, yellow, and gray, they were stacked one by one. They were put on a plate and sent to the dining table in front of Zhong Xiaobao and Wang Wan. There was also a bowl of wild vegetable soup with the smell of oil floating in it. Because the root vegetable boxes were limited in quantity, they were usually only eaten in the inner courtyard for Xiao Bei and the others. The wild vegetable soup was much easier to make. In addition to some chopped green onions, there was water, salt, pepper powder, and some uncooked oil. There were 2 full pots, less than half a basket of vegetables in them. They were distributed to more people to drink. There were a few wild vegetable leaves in each bowl. Zhong Xiaobao and Wang Wan had the most wild vegetables in their bowls. This soup was simple to make, but it was very good for people's health. Regardless of whether the weather was cold or hot, drinking it while eating would replenish water. Furthermore, it was eaten with steamed buns, so there was no need for vegetables. It couldn't be compared to the soup of the rich and powerful. That kind of soup was boiled. Speaking of the soup with the best taste, the rich and powerful generally couldn't drink it. It wasn't that they didn't have the ingredients, but that they didn't have the skills. Zhong Xiaobao drank a mouthful and looked at Wang Wan. Wang Wan smacked her lips and said, "No wonder people in the south said that northerners' soup is scrubbed water. If the oil isn't boiled well, it is indeed very similar to scrubbed water. If the southerners' soup isn't boiled well, it's no different from the northerners' pig food. Let's not attack each other, okay?" Generally, only people who have never been out, or people who went out and suffered losses, are willing to attack each other. Whoever attacks shows that they have low self-esteem. The strong are respected wherever they go, so they are friendly to everyone. When I was abroad, I didn't attack the country. I even wanted to come back, but I knew that as long as I showed my face, I would definitely be caught. Especially beautiful geniuses, they were very willing to catch me. Zhong Xiaobao looked at the soup bowl in front of him and said to Wang Wan. Wang Wan took a bite of the small vegetable box and swallowed it slowly. She drank 2 mouthfuls of soup and let out a long breath. Ah, now I don't have to worry about the excess food in my stomach. But people who have gastric problems definitely can't eat this kind of box. Eat, don't complain, it's my mission to catch you. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about the beauty. Xiao Bei, come, let me tell you, next time when you make this kind of soup, remember to sprinkle the chopped green onions into the oil first. If the chopped green onions don't turn black, it means that the oil temperature is not enough. Don't add water immediately. Zhong Xiaobao said to Wang Wan. Seeing that Wang Wan's eyes began to change, he hurriedly called his sister. Xiao Bei also knew that the taste was not good, but this was made by them, she had to drink and eat. She picked up a black box on both sides and put it on her brother's plate. She said, "I haven't made it before, so I'm not familiar with it. Next time, I won't. If it's not good, don't drink it." Zhong Xiaobao was speechless. You think it's only the soup that's not good? Then why did you pick up a black box for me? But he said, "How is it not good? It's just that it hasn't reached the highest level. If the soup is given to the people of Duo tribe to drink, they'll be happy to death. It's good enough that there's salt." I think so too. Xiao Bei was very considerate, but she still looked at the soup and frowned. She asked, "Brother, is there a way to not have the smell of raw oil no matter when you add water?" "There is." Zhong Xiaobao patted Xiao Bei's head. It's fine as long as the oil is cooked before. Didn't you notice that there are many oil jars in our kitchen? It's that simple? Then what should we do now that the soup already has the smell of raw oil? Xiao Bei felt that her first time cooking was a failure. Do you still have chopped green onions? Yes, there are wild onions in the mountains, a lot of them. You just need to chop the chopped green onions and sprinkle them directly on top of the soup. Zhang Xiaobao gave a remedy in a situation where there was no other way. Xiao Bei was happy. Sure enough, her brother was the best. She threw down the chopsticks in her hand and ran to find Xiao Yuan and the others to make arrangements. Zhang Xiaobao smiled and said to Wang Wan, "Eat, beauty. Actually, this soup and box are not bad." The title of beauty was effective. Wang Wan did not mention what had just happened. She gently drank the soup, and it seemed that it was really delicious. Then she said, "Compared to the people in the refugee area, the food in front of us is a delicacy. Yes, the damage caused by natural disasters is great, but there are also many man-made refugee areas. I wonder how many refugees will appear in Duo tribe this time." Zhang Xiaobao also carefully chewed the black box that Xiao Bei had given them. "It depends on the situation at sea." Wang Wan turned her head and looked to the west. Chapter 1345. Wind direction. Southwest. Wind speed, 5. The situation under the water is unknown. It is not easy for large ships to approach the shore. Send small ships into the water. Pay attention to the tail waves. On the ship closest to the shore, someone on the lookout tower sent out a signal with a sailfish. In the fleet of large ships, there were immediately 100 smaller ships. 2 small ships, each 4.5 meters long and 2 meters wide, came down from each ship. Each small ship could seat 8 people. They rowed toward the shore, and there were also things covered with canvas on the ships. About 200 li away from the 1,000 ships, there were 9,000 ships anchored there, including 2,000 gunboats. These were all the naval forces the Tang Empire could muster. Over the years, they had built 3,000 gunboats. 200 were left in the country and 500 were used to patrol the seas. Wherever there were Tang merchant ships, there would be Tang gunboats. The rest were all sent here. In the future, they would not build the same type of gunboats. New gunboats were rarely built. Usually they would build 2 or 3 and send them to the seas, lakes, Yellow River, and Yangtze River for training and to learn the techniques. If there was a need, the large shipyards would start construction at the same time. The other ships anchored on the sea were transport ships and supply ships. There were 200,000 soldiers on the shore this time. For a long time, they would not be able to get supplies from the country. They also needed to carry livestock for transportation. 10,000 ships sounded like a number, but when looking at it, one would never compare this number with the situation on the sea. There were already merchant ships coming back from farther away. When they saw the ships on the sea, the people on the ships ran up and shouted, "Boss, boss, quick, come out and look at the ships." A merchant ship called Longing Tang was returning to the Tang Empire along the shore. The lookout on the mast saw the scene in front of him through a telescope and shouted at the top of his lungs. As he shouted, he climbed down from the mast. "What are you shouting for? Little Dong, when can you be more steady? Ever since we left the Tang Empire, I haven't seen you rest. You shout when you see fish. You shout when you see seabirds. Look at the ship, we are already on the ship. It's not like we haven't seen ships before. Is this a merchant ship or a guard ship of the Tang Empire?" On the deck, in a small wooden hut, a person was rolling noodles. Next to him was a wooden shelf. On the paper, there were 3 very small children. From their clothes, it could be seen that they were 2 boys and 1 girl. When he heard the lookout shout, he quickly added some cold water into the pot and shouted back. The man he called Xiao Dong had already slipped down from the mast very deftly and stood in the doorway. He sniffed and said, "Boss, I mean Captain. You made noodles for me again. There are boats. Many boats. Who made it for you? The noodles I brought from the Tang Empire were not much to eat. I cooked and ate a few mouthfuls, but when I got home, the 3 kids kept pestering me. I couldn't even eat a peaceful meal of noodles. When I came out, they were less than 1 year old. When I went back, they would be 3 years old. That is the time when they are naughty. The captain narrowed his eyes as he looked at the picture on the paper. Suddenly, he glared at Xiao Dong and said, Xiao Dong, I told you 100 times to hang the binoculars around your neck. You just had to take off the rope. If you really fell into the sea, I won't be your witness when we get back. Let's see how the authorities will deal with you. Boss, don't worry. You see, I have a rope tied around my waist. I can't wear it around my neck. My neck will be worn out after a long time. Boss, oh, Captain, I mean ship, if you don't believe me, you can take a look with the binoculars later. It's so scary. Xiao Dong pulled the binoculars. Sure enough, there was a rope tied around his waist. Every big ship had 2 of these things. One was held by the captain, and the other was given to the lookout. When they came out, they would file a record. When they got back, even if it was broken, they would bring the pieces to the state-level authorities for inspection. If they lost it and no one was there to prove it, they would be punished. The captain was not in a hurry. He didn't expect what kind of scene it would be. He only thought that there was a bigger trading fleet that wanted to meet with his small fleet here. After that, they would greet each other and go their separate ways. In that case, he would be able to see it in a while. It was more important to eat the noodles he brought from the Tang Empire first. It took a long time for the noodles to enter the pot, so the time it took to cook them was shorter. After a few minutes, the noodles were ready. After soaking them in cold water for a while, the captain took another can, opened it, and scooped out a few spoonfuls of bean paste. He scooped a few spoonfuls of bean paste into a bowl and ate a mouthful. Delicious. The noodles and bean paste from my hometown are still the best. Why are you looking at me? If you want to eat, you can eat it yourself. Are you waiting for me to serve you? Captain, you are really too noble. Little Dong happily ran over, picked up the noodles, and put in the sauce. He lowered his head and stuffed half of the noodles into the bowl. Then, he raised his head and rubbed his mouth in satisfaction. Captain, I just remembered. A month ago, Little Bean was sick and wanted to eat noodles. You took out a can of bean paste and said that it was the last one. Today, could it be? I'm dreaming? Yes, now that you have woken up from your dream, go up and take a look. Are you still full? I only made this much. That bean paste, aren't you afraid of being salty? When the captain was speaking, Xiao Dong picked up 2 more chopsticks of noodles and put the bean paste on the noodles. I have woken up from my dream. Boss, I am going up now. You eat slowly. I will continue to feel the power of the Tang fleet. After finishing 2 bowls of noodles, Xiao Dong gulped down a mouthful of water. He wiped his mouth and ran out, leaving only one sentence. You're lying to me. I won't even look at it. I'll eat noodles. Son, daughter, wait for me to go back. I'll make noodles for you every day. The goods on the 5 ships are all yours. These are goods from Africa that Xiaobao and Cuckoo mentioned. They're very valuable. The captain continued to slurp his noodles unhurriedly, muttering as he looked at the 3 children drawn on the paper. By the time he was full, a quarter of an hour had passed. He let out a satisfied burp and looked at the noodles that hadn't been cooked yet. He gently placed the can of bean paste on the table and wondered who would be lucky enough to run over first. That way, they would be able to cook the noodles themselves. The captain rubbed his stomach and took the binoculars. He strolled outside and continued to look at the sea and blue sky. He thought of Xiao Dong's words and looked ahead with the binoculars. Ah! So many ships. Damn, this is the Tang fleet. Our Tang has so many ships. Reflected in the captain's eyes were ships after ships with dragon flags fluttering in the wind. Everywhere he looked, there were only ships. There was no end in sight. At the end of the sea and the sky, he could vaguely see the silhouettes of ships. The captain was dumbfounded. He swallowed hard and murmured, "What's going on? Am I dreaming? No, absolutely not. Why would the great Tang's fleet come here? Who is going to be unlucky? So beautiful, so mighty. Come out for this captain. Look at the fleet. It is the Tang fleet." After muttering to himself, the captain began to shout to the cabin below the deck. His hands holding the binoculars turned white and his body trembled uncontrollably. He was too excited. In the past, he could only see a few gunships and supply ships of the Tang fleet. It was rare to see dozens of ships at the dock at the same time. Today he was truly satisfied. His great Tang had so many warships. When gathered together, they could blot out the sky. This was the Tang fleet, the strength to protect the Tang people. The captain pursed his lips, puffed out his chest, and let the sea breeze blow. He had the urge to cry. The ship in front of him could no longer be called a ship. It was like a mountain range, continuous and unending. What could be prouder than this? More footsteps came from the deck. Hearing the captain's shout, the sailors thought that something had happened and ran out. However, they didn't find any danger. When they looked forward, they were all stunned. Even without binoculars, they could see the ships in front of them. It was just that they couldn't see the flags on them. They could see the hull of the closest ship, the sails and masts further away, and the ships further away were little dots or black lines. "Big Uncle, where did these ships come from? There are so many of them that it's frightening," a sailor said to the captain with wide eyes. "Huh? Where did they come from? Under the heavens, where do you think there are so many ships?" "Only my great Tang. I can see clearly. Gunships, those are gunships, and more gunships. So many gunships? Who are Cuckoo and Xiao Bao going to deal with?" The captain could now see the configuration of the ships clearly. The gunships were clearly different from the ones the captain had seen. Although he couldn't see the cannons, he could see the wooden planks covering the muzzles. Those familiar with the Great Tang's gunships knew that once the wooden planks were removed, the cannons would be exposed. The other ships didn't have string cannons, but they had a gun at the bow and no gun at the stern. This meant that the warships had no intention of firing while escaping. This was a sign of absolute confidence. His nephew rolled his eyes and reminded, "Big Uncle, in front of us is the strait of many cannibals. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are fighting many cannibals. When we came out, it was only a small skirmish. I didn't expect that by the time we came back, they were already fighting. This definitely isn't a small battle." "I know. Why would they need so many ships in a small battle? But there are too many gunships. Do the cannibals have enough ships to fight?" The captain thought hard and then suddenly understood. "I understand. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo aren't sending people to attack the ships. They are transporting soldiers. If the gunships can attack the ships, they can also attack the shore. The cannibals are finished." "How?" The captain's nephew couldn't understand. If they sent soldiers, they would still have to fight. They were deep in the shore, and the gunships couldn't go up. The captain's nephew didn't think too much about it. Instead, he admired the approaching fleet and sighed. "It's so beautiful. I've always heard people say that Cuckoo's gunships broke through the waves and formed a majestic formation. I couldn't imagine what it was like. Now I know. If I were the enemy, I would just surrender. There's no way to fight this battle. In front of us, there's nothing but ships. When we cut through the fleet later, it will be even more shocking. I've seen hundreds of fishing boats moving together, and I think it's spectacular. How many ships does the Great Tang fleet have? It's invincible." Hearing his words, the other crew members on the deck felt the same. The closer they got, the more they felt the oppression of the motherland's invincible fleet. They belonged to the Great Tang. Usually, they didn't need to send many. 1 or 2 gunships and 3 to 5 supply ships were enough to protect the safety of the people outside. When there was a real problem, the Great Tang would gather so many ships and form a boundless fleet. With the protection of the armed forces on the sea, they could go anywhere in the world. Captain, when we go back, if we see ships from other small countries, such as Junla or Japan, we'll stick to them and see if they dare to provoke us. The invincible fleet of the great Tang will crush them, a crew member shouted excitedly. You're the one who sticks to them, and you dare to provoke them? Isn't it a provocation? The great Tang fleet is powerful, but it's not for you to provoke them. Don't you need to spend money? Are you stupid, or are Xiao Bao and Cuckoo stupid? Or is it the Emperor? The captain followed the voice and glared at him. Isn't it said that the great Tang is willing to do all it can for one person? I'm also a person of the great Tang, the man retorted. He was immediately met with all sorts of criticism. I say, Chen Clan's second son, I told you not to come. You're such a fool, but you insisted on coming. Next time, no matter what you say, I won't agree to bring you along. Idiot, in the future, I'll call you that. And you dare to say that you'll do all it can? That's only because you're in a special situation, like when you're at war with multiple countries at the same time. It's not because you've been bitten by a fish and the entire Great Tang has to take turns rubbing your face. You're truly lacking compared to your brother and brother. If you run into 2 other ships, the Great Tang has to send you this fleet? And they have to cooperate with you? 1 patrol ship is enough. Chan Erbwa, you're sick. You need to be treated. Old 2, I'm confused. Why do you have to provoke others? If their ships are filled with valuable goods, then after you provoke them, the Great Tang's armed ships will go and help you steal the goods. But if their ships are filled with rotten fish and shrimps, then after you've provoked them, our Great Tang ships will go and help you fight. We won't get any benefits. Isn't that just making trouble for the Great Tang army? Brother Chen, you're not young anymore. Shut up. What, Brother Chen? You're my younger brother, so just call me brother. You're also talking about me. Do you want to put righteousness before family? The younger brother reacted and hurriedly defended his older brother. That's right, you're my older brother. You, all of you, stop talking about my older brother. Look at the ships. After having their fill, the crowd stopped mocking the second son of the Chen clan and turned their gazes to the great Tang fleet. Bong, 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 bong. Suddenly, the sound of drums and horns came from the fleet in front of them. All sorts of small flags began to move, and the ships with sails began to lower their sails. Big Uncle, what are they doing? The captain's nephew asked curiously. The captain was also puzzled. As he watched, he suddenly realized that the clouds in the sky were moving faster and faster. Immediately, he shouted to the surrounding crew, "Quick! Lower the horizontal sail and raise the jib. A gale is coming from the side. Don't look at the ship, or else it'll be blown away." Only then did the crew react. They hurriedly got into position and began to do their work. Soon, the horizontal sail was lowered and the jib was raised to a separate position. The speed of the ship began to decrease. The people on the observation deck did not continue to stay and slipped out to the deck. After a while, the crowd gathered at the front deck. Only the people controlling the sail and the helm were unable to leave their positions. Normally, when encountering such a situation at sea, one would be very nervous. Each time, they would be worried that something would happen and that they wouldn't be able to return home. However, the people on the ship were very relaxed. In front of them was the fleet of their motherland. If the wind was so strong that it was dangerous, the fleet would definitely send a ship to inform their merchant ships. Since no one had come to inform them, it meant that the wind wasn't out of the control of the fleet. Since this was the case, the 5 ships on their side would enter the fleet in a short while, and the fleet would protect them. The wind began to pick up, and the sails of the 5 merchant ships formed a large angle with the ship. If one only looked at the sails, they would feel like the ship was moving at an angle. As the wind howled and the waves battered the sides of the ship, the people on the ship weren't worried in the slightest. All of them steadied themselves and experienced the feeling of riding the wind and waves. Although the wind was blowing from the side, the ships were actually moving faster. 30 minutes later, the 5 merchant ships finally brushed past the closest Tang warship. The flags on the ships fluttered in the wind. Soldiers wearing different types of navy uniforms were saluting the merchant ships. Their standard standing posture and neat movements made the people on the merchant ships tear up. They all returned the salutes that were out of shape. As they went deeper and deeper into the fleet, they couldn't see the outside anymore. There were only ships, countless ships, and the orderly salutes of the soldiers on the ships they passed. These orderly movements made the blood of the people on the merchant ships boil. They saw the majestic warships, the resolute soldiers, the rolling dark clouds, and the flapping war banners. For a moment, they felt very reassured. There was nothing in the world that could fight against this army. It was too strong, and the eyes of the soldiers showed no sign of retreat or weakness. Good soldiers, once we return and sell the goods, I will take out 10% of the net profit and send it to the barracks. The soldiers of my great Tang can't be wronged. Our dignity in the outside world depends on them. The captain solemnly said. Chapter 1346. The 5 merchant ships passed through the fleet in a daze. They didn't know how much time had passed, but when they came out, they found that the gale had already passed. The people on the ships were all very excited, occasionally turning their heads to look at the seemingly endless fleet. After looking around for a while, the captain returned to his cabin, picked up a pen, and wrote, "We're still in a land of many cannibals, in that part of the sea. I know that it won't be long before we get home." On the way, I saw patrolling armored ships and merchant ships like mine. Whether it was whales or dolphins, they were all very ordinary on the surface of the sea where the sun constantly rose and set. Even Africa didn't shock me. After all, someone else had been there before me. I knew that the last part of the journey would go very smoothly, that no country would come to make trouble. I have always firmly believed that the great Tang's gunships were the most awe-inspiring. But I must say that the fleet I saw today can no longer be described as awe-inspiring. Without seeing it with one's own eyes, one would never be able to imagine such a scale. This is a sight that should not exist in this world. Warships much larger than merchant ships were anchored on the surface of the sea in rows and groups. When I looked through my binoculars, I couldn't see the end of them. They simply floated there, doing nothing, but my heart was filled with boundless pride. I truly didn't dare to guess what I would do if I were an enemy of the great Tang. Perhaps surrendering would have been a good idea, but I would have to kneel on the deck before the gunships could open fire. But I wasn't. I kept telling myself that I wasn't an enemy, that I was a citizen of the great Tang, and I was proud to be a citizen of the great Tang. Thus, I decided to take out 10% of the profits and use it on the great Tang's fleet. They were worth it, and I had no regrets. The soldiers of the fleet were in no mood to consider the thoughts of the people on the merchant ships that had just passed by. They simply expressed their welcome. According to Cuckoo's request, whenever a Great Tang army left Great Tang territory and encountered a non-combatant of the Great Tang, they had to give them a salute. It was these people who paid the taxes that supported them. Thus, as soldiers, he naturally needed to provide them with sufficient assistance. Since they didn't need him and the others to help them fight for the time being, showing them some goodwill was also a form of assistance. Cuckoo had said that the salute of a soldier was the most beautiful scene, and it would make the people of the Great Tang feel at ease. Now that they were at ease, all that was left was to continue the assault on the Duo Eater. The Duo Eater would never have imagined that a group of Tang soldiers would appear in such an important place. At the narrowest point of the straits, the people who were beginning to approach the shore were very excited. They had already seen the ships of the man-eaters anchored one by one at the rudimentary docks. Actually, it was not quite correct to call it a dock. It was a pity that in such a good natural deep water place, those boats were too small. Moreover, they were dragged to the shore, where the water was not deep. There aren't any reefs down there. If I had known, I would have just let the big boats come over. It's really a good natural harbor, but the scenery is a little lacking. I thought that I would be able to see a cluster of buildings and all kinds of tropical plants. A sailor who had just docked his boat looked at the scenery in front of him and felt a little disappointed. He had always imagined that other people's docks would be like Lu Zhou's. When he entered the dock from the outside, he would see a cluster of buildings and a pleasant greenery. However, this was not the case at all. There were no buildings, only a dozen or so boats stranded on the shore. Then, what entered his eyes were mountains, rocks, and yellow hills. The first impression it gave was that it was a barren place. Moreover, there were no lush forests on the mountains. They were all bare. Only when he looked carefully would he see specks of green grass growing with difficulty and tenacity. Why didn't the duo eater build up such an important place? What a pity! Zhang Daqiang, what are you standing there for? Hurry up and move the things ashore. Just as this person was lost in his thoughts, the captain's voice rang in his ears. He was so frightened that he hurriedly jumped off the boat and began to cooperate with the others to move the things on the boat ashore. The first batch of things carried by the small boats were machine guns and ammunition. They thought that they would be blocked by the enemy if they came over, so they were prepared to force their way ashore. In the end, they found that the actual situation was different from what they had expected. There was no duo eater at all. What they saw was only desolation. The boats that were dragged to the shore had not been used for a long time. There was a lot of sand in the boats, and the bottom of the boats was a mixture of black and brown sand. It was obvious that the boats had not been maintained for a long time. If they were to go out to sea now, it would be easy for them to leak. They could even break the boats by gently knocking on a rock on the shore. However, the team still had to follow the previous steps. They moved the machine guns ashore, connected the ammunition, and prepared to face any possible dangers. When all the things were moved ashore, 6 of the 8 people on each boat stayed behind while the other 2 rowed back to provide support. As for sending a big boat to approach directly, they still did not dare. Sitting on a small boat and not being able to see the reefs underwater did not mean that it was equally safe to send a big boat over. Zhang Daqiang was one of the people who stayed behind. He was a very good sniper. He had received training in jungle warfare and street warfare. He had also specially gone to Fengzhou, to be precise, the southern bank of the Yellow River in Fengzhou. There was a desert there. It was very big. Zhang Daqiang had never walked from one side to the other, and no one would ask for that. However, he had survived there for 2 days. Yes, 2 days. During those 2 days, he only carried a wet towel wrapped in layers of oil paper and a single-edged serrated knife. Other things he did not carry. The experience of those 2 days was definitely a choice between life and death. Fortunately, there were many eagles circling in the sky. The 2 most beautiful ones were red and white. The red one was called the Red Luan, and the white one was called the Shuiyun. If he felt that he could not stand it any more, he would wave to the sky. There would be eagles bringing water and other supplies, but at the same time, he would be eliminated. Those who were eliminated would not be able to go ashore and continue to move forward. Zhang Daqiang also participated in other training after that, but it was still in the desert. He only came out after 4 months. Who knew how many layers of skin on his body had fallen off? Damn, it's so hot. Zhang Daqiang and the others left in a small boat. Some people stayed behind to provide cover fire, while he joined 1 person on each boat. There were a total of 200 people. They were very familiar with each other. They were teammates who had survived together in the desert. Yes, it's hot. A weak voice followed. Zhang Daqiang did not need to look back to know who it was. The person's real name was Tu Dong. He was the 4th child in the family. His nickname was Rabbit. Tu Si, Rabbit. It was very pleasing to the ear. When Zhang Daqiang heard Tu Dong's voice, he didn't feel that Tu Dong was a very weak person. Tu Dong's voice was always so soft, and his expression was always shy. However, this kid was not weak at all. He was the most skilled at catching snakes and skinning them. He was also very bold. No matter what the desert thing was, as long as it was said to be edible, he dared to eat it raw. He ate it more delicious than anyone else. The most important thing was that he was very sensitive to water. He could always find the place with the heaviest water vapor under the sand, and then use simple tools to gather the water. Of course, his marksmanship was not bad. Otherwise, he would not have been arranged to be in the first batch of commandos. Don't talk so much when you're hot. Get ready and start adjusting your state. Today, we must advance 50 miles and clear all obstacles along the way. We must circle the area where the quicksand may appear and clean up all kinds of dangerous insects and animals in the desert. The person who came down from the other boat said to Zhang Daqiang and Tu Dong unhappily. The two of them immediately shut their mouths and began to prepare. They put on their gloves, tied up their sleeves, checked if the straps on their boots were done properly, and tied up their pants. They put on their hats, tied up their collars, and covered their face masks and reflective glasses. Every part of their bodies was covered, and not a single trace of their skin was exposed. In addition to the large dual backpacks, the guns in their hands, and the knives at their waists, they felt even hotter. However, none of them changed into trousers and vests. In the past, they did not know, but after participating in the desert training for 4 months, they had a deep understanding. In the desert, one should not think that it was cool to wear less. The temperature of the sand was very high. If one's skin was exposed, it would be cracked by the sun. The most important thing was that the water in the body would be lost very quickly. Now, they looked uncomfortable, but they could survive very well and save water at the same time. The pain of those 2 days was still etched in their minds. Even so, Cuckoo and Xiao Bao only passed on the surface. The real survival time was 3 days and 3 nights, 72 hours. The reason why they did not add an extra day was because the rescue team could not keep up. During those 2 days, they could not just hide in one place. They also had to complete the mission. Otherwise, it would be much simpler. They just had to dig a hole in the sand dune facing away from the sun, bury themselves in it, and hold on for a while. Zhang Daqiang, who had a deep impression of this, did not say anything, but he could use sign language. He said to Tu Dong next to him, "Cuckoo and Xiao Bao are really amazing. When we went for the training 3 years ago, they must have thought of this moment. If we had not experienced it before, we would not have been able to walk too far." Of course, if Cuckoo and Xiao Bao are not amazing, who is? I am now wondering, how do the local polyphagous people survive? Do they also walk on the sand and be fine? Tu Dong also used sign language to say, although it was not a desert in front of them, there was not much greenery. It was yellow, whether it was the mountains or the ground. Coupled with the salty sea breeze and the big sun in the sky, it was easy to imagine how difficult it was to live here. At this time, the captain made a hand gesture and jogged forward. The others lined up and cooperated with each other to follow. Only the sound of chaotic footsteps echoed in the place where the 200 people were walking. The wind was still blowing, and from time to time, the dust on the ground would rise. The clouds in the sky did not have any intention of stopping. They floated by, but not a single drop of rain fell. Chapter 1347. When the Tang army landed behind the duo people, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also set off with their troops. None of the 3,000 people in Simo Domo's tribe were missing. It wasn't that they didn't want to secretly leave the group, but they considered that if they didn't follow the larger group, the rest of them wouldn't be able to survive. Simo Domo took all the food and dried meat, most of the metal tools, and the livestock of the tribe. The people who stayed behind had to find their own food and use tools made of wood and stone. If the rabbits and deer were their food, then they were also the food of the wolves, tigers, leopards, and other carnivores. They didn't think that they could easily defeat the animals that wanted to eat them, and they didn't think that they could easily catch the animals they wanted to eat, especially salt. Who would provide it? Thus, everyone left. At least they didn't have to worry about starvation if they followed the Tang army. There were fewer old people in the group, and none of them were sick. Simo Domo had thought of all sorts of ways to let these people end their lives early. Otherwise, a person who couldn't work and needed others to take care of them would be a burden. Fortunately, Simo Domo wasn't stupid enough to treat the children as a burden, so the children were still alive. The women weren't. Simo Domo had quite a number of women, a total of 14. Looking at each of them, it was obvious that the local aesthetic view was different from the Tang people. Duoduo felt the same way as Simo Domo. He felt that the 14 women were beautiful. Of course, even if his aesthetic view was slightly different, he still felt that Cuckoo was more beautiful. The main reason was that he felt that this person who was called Demonis Cuckoo was strong enough. Not only could she command a battle, but she also had a fighting strength. At the same time, she could sing, dance, and cooperate with Xiao Bao to make delicious food. Such a woman was really hard to find, especially her skin. Why was it so soft and white? She was much stronger than the women on his side. Duo made such comparisons, but he still liked the other beauties in front of him, even if they were inferior to Cuckoo. Cuckoo didn't belong to him. Every time he looked at her, he felt a pain in his chest. He couldn't find such a woman, or he would be bullied all day. Xiao Bao, I just realized that you're really a man. Toto's eyes swept over Simo Domo's woman, and he didn't forget to talk to Zhang Xiaobao beside him. Zhang Xiaobao was a little nervous. He unconsciously covered his lower body with his hand and squeezed out a smile. How did you find out? You weren't beaten up by your woman, Cuckoo. Aren't you a man? Toto gave a reason that he thought was correct. Zhang Xiaobao began to worry about Duo. Could it be that after being kicked by Cuckoo, he began to change his outlook on life, the world, and values? Were there only two choices in his eyes? Men can do better than women, and women can do better than men, so they have to be on opposite sides. Zhang Xiaobao felt that he should help Duo, so he said, in fact, she didn't hit me because she didn't want to, not because she couldn't beat me. I think you should contact more people outside, especially to see how good the life of the people outside is. In your situation, I guess you can only get in touch with the 126 people in your tribe. They have nothing to do, so they bully each other. Whoever wins will be powerful. Don't you know that there are many people outside who are more powerful than you? My wife and I don't have the leisure to play at home. There are many things outside that we need to calculate together. There are problems with our own people's lives, and there are problems with the enemy's strategy. I advise you to learn from me and think more about the outside world. Simo Domo also beat women. Duo found a realistic example to prove that he was right. Is he powerful? A small leader in charge of more than 3,000 people is powerful? He also has nothing to do. I never think that a man who beats women has something to do. Zhang Xiaobao was very disdainful of Simo Domo. A tribe of more than 3,000 people was considered a social group? A small place was a small place. Unfortunately, even with the large population in India, not many people took them seriously. The main thing was that their military power was not strong. And the most hateful thing was that other people were thinking of ways to make money when they encountered economic crises, but they actually sold their wives. This kind of behavior was no longer an attack on ethics and morality, but on human nature. Zhang Xiaobao had thought many times that if he had a wife, when he had no money, he would take his wife to the market and sell her. Through all kinds of psychology, he would tell himself that it was right to do so. However, in the end, he failed. He couldn't convince himself at all. If he sold a wife who usually cooked, ate, and suffered with him, how cold-blooded would he be? That was not a commodity, but a period of time and memories that had a close relationship with him. The most infuriating were those women who were sold. They were very honest and accompanied the men to sell themselves. This might be a kind of habit. For a race and country with such a habit, the slightly stronger countries in the world would look down on them, let alone pay attention to them. Wife, speaking of the behavior of selling wives in India, it reminds me of lions, Zhang Xiaobao thought and suddenly said to Wang Wan who was beside him. If it were someone else, they would be confused by Zhang Xiaobao's words. The jump was too big. Just now, he was talking to Duo, and in the blink of an eye, he mentioned lions. However, Wang Wan could understand. There was no need to deliberately think about it. She could empathize with Zhang Xiaobao's words. She could understand Zhang Xiaobao's psychological activities very well. So she said, "Don't mock the lions." The lions didn't take the initiative to give their wives away. They ran away because they couldn't beat them. Moreover, they have to bear the pain of losing their children. Unless there are other lionesses in the pride who don't have children, the new male lions will kill the cubs. Oh, thank you. Please allow me to apologize to the lions. This reminds me of a documentary film from more than 100 years ago, The Adventures of the Lion King. At that time, there was a little lion. It needed to be killed, but it didn't want to die, so it ran away. The lioness stopped the new male lion and created the conditions for it to run into the swamp. I thought it would die, but it tenaciously survived. A few years later, it became a very powerful male lion and found the former pride again. I admire the person who recorded all of this with influence. What are you two talking about? Duo was confused. We're talking about our own words, Zhang Xiaobao replied with a smile. I don't understand. Duo felt that what he said in Tang was right. Why couldn't he understand? He couldn't figure out what the two were talking about. Zhang Xiaobao still said with a smile, Can others understand you when you talk to your woman? Yes, Duo said honestly. You're a failure. Zhang Xiaobao didn't give him any face. I think so too. My woman is not as good as yours, Duo admitted. Wang sneered. It's your man who is not as good as mine. Don't put yourself so high. If Xiaobao had your woman would definitely live better than you. Then I'll give him my woman. Are you tired of living? I'll let Xiao Nan use you for target practice. Do you believe it? What is target practice? Like the deer before, put you 200 steps away, you can run, and Xiao Nan will shoot you. Why? Forget it, your IQ is not good. It's a waste of a bullet to shoot you. Go back to the team. Look at your tribe, it's a mess. You want to compete with my man? You can't even manage a team of more than 100 people. TSK. Wang said to Duo in disdain. She took a step forward and prepared to kick. Duo hurriedly ran away, followed by his cursing voice. Scared me to death. If he pushed the women in his tribe in front of me, won't I starve to death? Zhang Xiaobao pretended to be frightened and sighed. Do you really want to vomit when you see them? Wang asked with a smile. I want to die, Zhang Xiaobao said with certainty. Wang smiled and lightly hit Zhang Xiaobao. Let's go. Look at Simo Domo, he's still living well. He doesn't care about his women, does he? I think he cares about his status. Women are just a tool for him to show his status. What do you want? Zhang Xiaobao blinked twice, looked at the 14 women belonging to Simo Domo and then looked at the other strong men in his tribe and asked. Just as you guessed, I think those women don't care about him very much. What they have is not love, but a simple social need. No one's departure will hurt anyone. It's not even comparable to the psychological impact of a pet dog's death on the owner. Wang's meaning was very clear. She looked at Zhang Xiaobao, waiting for him to say something supportive. Zhang Xiaobao nodded his head. I think it's okay. Brother, sister, are you really going to give Simo Domo his women to some of the people in his tribe who have contributed the most to us through labor evaluation? Xiao Bei jumped over like a rabbit. As she walked, she tilted her head and asked. How do you know? Zhang Xiaobao habitually patted his sister's head. Xiao Bei was not disgusted. She enjoyed it and let her brother pat her head. She said, Because your life is not a failure. Duo is leading his small tribe to survive, but he doesn't even have a tacit understanding with anyone. He doesn't know what his family is thinking, and his family doesn't know what he's thinking. He's so pitiful. I think so too. He doesn't even have 2 sisters like our Xiao Bei. Isn't that so? Zhang Xiaobao used internet language. This kind of word sounded very cute, but he would not say it to adults. Yes. Xiao Bei nodded. Go ahead and teach. You're messing up our Chinese culture. You're saying all kinds of things to your younger brothers and sisters. When the time comes, can you still tell who is who? Wang was really helpless against Zhang Xiaobao. He taught blindly, drew cartoons, spoke internet language, wore European princess dresses, ate Western food, and dozens of commonly used foreign languages. His teaching methods were messed up, but Zhang Xiaobao still enjoyed it. Zhang Xiaobao did not care and said, "They will know how to choose. They say it's Chinese culture, but what is China? Yan Huang? China." Many of the idioms and allusions are not from the Tang Dynasty. If we really talk about things before, why is Chong and the capital? Does the Central Plains include Chong-en? Chapter 1348. Wang Wan did not have time to argue with Zhang Xiaobao. He could teach them however he wanted. Anyway, her younger siblings had learned well. They were not domineering when dealing with outsiders, and they were not arrogant when dealing with their own people. Moreover, they would be more down-to-earth when speaking to honest people. They would not be at a disadvantage when talking to treacherous people. This was very good. Teaching children was not to let them learn how to ask for guidance, nor was it to let them know how to calculate the games in other people's casinos through probability and fuzzy mathematics. There was also no need to memorize the 4 books and 5 classics. At the same time, they could understand and write the same type of articles. The ultimate goal of teaching children was to let them adapt to society and be able to survive in all kinds of complicated situations. Many people who had countless master's and doctorate degrees under them might not even finish middle school or high school. Since there was no reason to argue, there was no need to argue too much about this. It was better to do something practical. The practical thing was that the people under Seymour Domo He's management were now bald. Regardless of gender, age, they were also given a medicinal bath. The clothes were not made yet, so they had to wait. Therefore, the children were all naked now. Fortunately, the girls had a simple belly band. Xiao Bei said that he was afraid that Xiao Yuan would see something he should not see. Xiao Yuan did not say anything. He just let people tie leaves with a special smell with a rope and hang it on the little boy, saying that it could repel mosquitoes. The adults were actually the same. Before the new clothes were made, they could not wear their old clothes, except for those that had been washed and sprayed with disinfectant. However, not everyone had several sets of clothes. At noon, a more practical situation appeared. All the old people, children, and pregnant women were given dishes cooked in a large pot by the chefs. There were 2 dishes and a soup. The amount was very large, and they were all meat. Xiao Bei and the others' dishes were naturally cooked by Zhang Xiaobao himself. There was braised mushrooms, fried wild celery, and a vegetarian soup. The fried potato strips inside were the children's favorite. The children of Seymour Domo He tribe did not have a share, but the children under Duoduo's command still ate. Seymour Damoka was in a bad mood when he saw this situation. He didn't care about the mushrooms and wild celery. What he cared about was Zhang Xiaobao's attitude. He was keenly aware of Zhang Xiaobao's status in the Great Tang. The Duogans and the Great Tang had already proven this point. Ordinary people would not be able to eat Zhang Xiaobao's dishes. Normally, only the emperor and Zhang Xiaobao's family could eat them. Just like himself, he used to be able to make some food, but ever since he became the leader, he had never done it. Even when he did, it was for himself. He felt that others did not have the right to taste it, including his women and children. Then, he saw the dishes cooked by Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao's woman, Wang Wan, did not eat them, which was very normal. Xiao Bei and the other 9 people ate them. He was a little confused. Perhaps it was because the children were young and should be taken care of more. There were sick people in the team, but they could also eat. How was this the behavior of a leader? Zhang Xiaobao had degraded his own status. The most infuriating thing was that Duo, a person who could be abandoned at any time, actually allowed their children to eat Zhang Xiaobao's dishes with Xiao Bei. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. Seymour Damoka's expression turned gloomy during the meal. He accompanied Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan to eat. He sat on the right side, while Duo sat on the other side. Today's meal was still stew. There was no choice. There were too many people, and they were marching. Regardless of whether they liked it or not, only stew could absorb nutrients the fastest, and it was also the most convenient to cook. When marching and fighting, it was already not bad to be able to eat stew. Under normal circumstances, they would eat dry rations and river water. Zhang Xiaobao did not think that the food was bad. He had once rummaged through the garbage bin to find food, so he had very low standards for food. At the same time, he had very high standards. He could eat anything, but he always liked to personally make more delicious food. He also did not think that Seymour Damoka's daily life was so extravagant that he could not eat the food made by the chefs from the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families. This batch of chefs was indeed not the best. Because of their physical conditions, they had to adapt to various climates before they could be brought out. But if you randomly picked one of the chefs from the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families, how could they be bad? Stew was a cooking method, but it did not mean the taste. Buddha Jumps Over the Wall was also stewed. Who said that it was not delicious? Right now, Seymour Damoka did not put his mind on the food. Instead, he kept looking at where Xiao Bei and the rest were. Zhang Xiaobao was unhappy. Damn it, why are you looking at my younger brother and sister for no reason? So Zhang Xiaobao was angry. He glared at him. With a bang, he was shocked. He looked carefully. Wang Wan, who was beside him, threw the bowl at Seymour Damoka. It was so hot that Seymour Damoka jumped up and hit the bowl while screaming. Zhang Xiaobao was stunned. I haven't done anything yet. Why did you throw the bowl first? Seymour Damoka, stop screaming. Let me ask you. If you don't eat the food, why are you staring at my younger brother and sister? Tell me, do you want to kidnap them to threaten us? Wang Wan held her chopsticks tightly and questioned. She looked like she was going to stab him with her chopsticks if he did not agree with her. The people nearby who could hear the commotion stopped what they were doing and looked over. Xiao Bei, who was eating at a table, threw his bowl on the table. He stood up and took out a small pistol. He pointed it at Seymour Damoka and said angrily, "So you are targeting us?" Seymour Damoka did not feel that the stew on his body was hot. He recognized the thing in Xiao Bei's hand. It was called a gun. It was a very beautiful gun. It had a pink surface, a smooth shape, a straight line, and a black muzzle. Especially when the one holding it was a child. A child always carried a gun. If he was in a bad mood or happy mood, how many people would die? No, I am not. I am not looking at you. I am looking at Duodwa's child. I am not convinced. Why can their child eat with you, but my child can't? Seymour Damoka had to tell the truth. He was afraid. He was not afraid of Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao, but of Xiao Bei who was holding a gun. It was the same reason why the Tang Empire's officials were afraid. Children had the biggest advantage. They were impulsive and unreasonable. They were not as rational as adults. It was normal for them to do things that they should not do. Xiao Bei looked at his sister. Wang Wan and Wei Wei turned sideways. He made a few gestures with his hands and blinked his eyes. Xiao Bei understood. So it was to trick people to seize power. Sigh, Seymour Damoka was really sad. Knowing that he had to find an excuse to deal with people, Xiao Bei was very cooperative. He said to Seymour Damoka with a cold face, "What does me inviting Uncle Duodwa's child to eat have to do with you? I understand now. You did not follow us willingly because you lost the bet. You want to steal our power while you follow us. You are so ambitious. You even want to control me? Don't you want to know who I am? In the whole world, other than my parents, Xiao Yuan's parents, our grandparents, and my brothers and sisters, who dares to control me? I, Xiao Bei, came to this world to enjoy life. I am not to be controlled by a person who lost the bet, a leader of a tribe with only 3,000 people. Are you unhappy? There are many things that make you unhappy. Do I need to care about you? You don't eat when you are eating. When you stare at me, I feel uncomfortable. Who asked me to? What did I say? Oh, right. Whoever makes me feel uncomfortable for a while, I will make them feel uncomfortable for life. Tell me, how do you want to die? Are you bullying me because I am a child? Let me tell you, many people have died in my hands. Have I ever blinked? In my eyes, human lives are like grass. Humph. Xiao Nan, kill him. Bang. Xiao Nan opened fire and shattered the bowl in Seymour Damoka's hand. Bang. Another sound was heard as the wind blew a hole in Seymour Damoka's sleeve. Then, Xiao Nan frowned and looked at his gun. He said, "Why is it wrong? I was aiming at the head." Again, shoot a few more times. I don't believe that it won't hurt at least once, Xiaobei said. Seymour Damoka immediately knelt down and looked at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. He shouted, "Help Xiaobao, Cuckoo, I won't dare to look blindly anymore." That's not right. Who allowed you to shoot so casually? Pistols also have recoil. What if you hurt your wrists? Pay attention to your status. You have to kill people personally. Zhang Xiaobao scolded Xiaobei and the others. Wang Wan also glared at the little guys in front of Seymour Damoka and said, "Xiaobao, I think Seymour Damoka didn't mean it. Why don't you give him a chance?" Yes. Give me a chance. I definitely won't dare to look blindly in the future. I won't be jealous either. Seymour Damoka realized that Cuckoo was a good person. She was better than Xiaobao. Xiaobao wanted to shoot to shock his wrists. How can my younger brothers and sisters be wronged? This time I definitely can't. Enough. Seymour Damoka already knows that he was wrong. Why force him to death? Wang Wan interrupted Zhang Xiaobao. She looked at Seymour Damoka and continued, "Chief Seymour Damoka, although this matter doesn't matter much, children are different from adults. I can't tie them up. How about this? You stay away from them and don't let them see you. What if the little guy shoots accurately again? Don't you think so?" Yes. I'll stay away. I won't be near them. Seymour Damoka agreed readily. Someone come and take Seymour Damoka to a safe place. Wang Wan ordered. Immediately, someone came and took Seymour Damoka to a safe place. Seymour Damoka felt very wronged. He didn't mean that. How did it become like this? He didn't know that he actually didn't feel wronged at all. If he could let the elders in the tribe accompany him to eat, or let his women accompany him to eat, Wang Wan would temporarily tolerate him. But he only cared about himself. He was too selfish. This kind of selfishness reflected in the process of surrendering. He didn't have any weaknesses. Even if you used his family to threaten him, it would be useless. This kind of person could be used but could not be trusted. The problem was that Wang Wan felt that Seymour Damoka didn't even have any value to be used. He didn't look like a traitor who could be used to help the team and their own people. After using him, they would get rid of him. In this world, no enemy would be good to a traitor. It only depended on how much the traitor could contribute. Therefore, Wang Wan decided to follow the plan. She didn't kill Seymour Damoka, but tied him up. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.